I build Noah's Ark for humanity. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, making them look more like humans. My name is Yeo-Na. Hello. Facing Jiang Sheng, who just looked like an officer of the Secret Service, but suddenly changed his attitude 180 degrees, Yeo-Na was a little caught off guard, but Jiang Sheng had already extended a friendly hand, so it was difficult for her to refuse. Yeo-Na stretched out her hand and shook Jiang Sheng's hand. Yes, Jiang Sheng shouted in his heart, because his goal had been achieved. Yeo-Na's genetic blueprint, come on. But after waiting for a second, Jiang Sheng felt that the touch on his right hand was a little wrong. Looking down, it turned out that Yeo-Na was wearing a rubber glove for experiments. Yeo-Na also saw Jiang Sheng's doubts, so she explained, I haven't touched any dirty things today, please rest assured. After saying that, Yeo-Na was about to pull her hand out, but because Jiang Sheng's handshake was quite strong, she did not break free. Can you let go? Yeo-Na asked. I can, sorry. Jiang Sheng reluctantly let go of her hand, because he had been holding Yeo-Na's hand for 5 seconds, and if he didn't let go, he would definitely be misunderstood. It's a pity that I didn't get the genetic blueprint in the end. Damn. You have to touch the skin to get the genetic blueprint. What a bullshit setting. It's already troublesome that I can't see everyone's genetic blueprint directly like a perspective eye, but I didn't expect that even contact requires direct skin contact. If it's between close friends, it's very simple to touch the skin, but it's too difficult to face outsiders. Modern people have a clear division of social distance. It's as difficult as climbing to the sky to cross this social distance, to touch the skin of others. The key is to touch the skin of the other person for more than just a moment. It takes a few seconds to get the genetic blueprint of the other person. What if you spend a lot of time touching the skin of the other person and keep it for a few seconds, but find that it's not the genetic blueprint you want? Then wouldn't it be a waste of effort? Jiang Sheng thought carefully. Although this ability seems to be very good and is also very beneficial to the development of the colony, it requires too many idealized situations to achieve it perfectly. You are wearing so many clothes, aren't you hot? Jiang Sheng had no choice but to ask Yeo-Na indirectly why she was wearing so tightly. Yeo-Na's skin is not exposed at all. The protection level of the experiment is fully utilized. Her figure is like a slightly fat penguin. If it weren't for the sound of her voice, Jiang Sheng would have thought she was a boy. Personal habit. Jiang Sheng nodded in agreement, but he still had some doubts in his heart. This person is too cautious in his habits, even more so than a certain cautious hero. By the way, you are not from this school, are you? Yeo-Na suddenly asked. Well, I'm from Jiang Sheng University. Professor X introduced me here. Then, the two of them exchanged a few simple pleasantries. Jiang Sheng knew that this laboratory usually had few other people coming, so he knew that Jiang Sheng should not be a student of this school. However, Yeo-Na welcomed Jiang Sheng's arrival. Because the huge mask obscured Yeo-Na's expression, Jiang Sheng didn't know whether Yeo-Na really welcomed him, because if few other people came to this laboratory, wouldn't this be equivalent to her private territory in a roundabout way? After the greetings, Jiang Sheng didn't stay for too long. He quickly cancelled his experimental data and took away all the experimental samples without leaving any evidence. Back in Noah, Jiang Sheng temporarily placed all the samples on the workbench and then thought about the results of today's sample test. The species of organisms in Noah are very limited, but these very few organisms can form an extremely delicate natural relationship. But at the same time, the number of species is scarce, and the situation between caves is different, making this ecosystem extremely fragile. The fragility of the ecosystem will greatly restrict the development of the colony. For example, the small ecosystem in the algae cave. Jiang Sheng can now easily destroy the ecology of the entire algae cave. That is, kill the few glowworms that make light. As long as there are no glowworms, plants and algae will inevitably die, and the algae cave will become an ordinary cave. But in this case, Jiang Sheng will never be able to use the various resources in the algae cave in the future. This is a contradictory thing, because the technology of the replicator is completely customized according to the ecosystem of Noah, and all technologies are to make full use of the various resources in Noah. If the corresponding resources cannot be obtained, the colony cannot develop. But if too much is demanded from nature, then Noah's fragile ecological environment will also be easily destroyed, and finally there will be no resources to obtain. In other words, this colony is unlikely to reach a population of billions as Jiang Sheng had imagined at the beginning, and the number of clones it can accommodate will be much less than imagined. In addition, Jiang Sheng also had some guesses about the clone's body. This time, Jiang Sheng analyzed the skin tissue of the clone. According to the human body structure, it should be the stratum corneum of the epidermis. But the result of the sample analysis is definitely not the human epidermal structure. The human epidermis has a series of complex components such as protein, phospholipids, and water, but the epidermis of the clone only has protein, water, and unknown. This is much simpler than Jiang Sheng imagined. Except for teeth and hair, other parts of the human body cannot have such a simple composition. No wonder Yeo misunderstood this tissue sample and thought it was a product synthesized by Jiang Sheng, because only artificial synthesis can make such a simple and pure thing. The most sophisticated machine on Earth is the human body. So far, humans have not been able to master the mystery of the human body's composition. Note that mastering the composition is not the same as cultivating. Cultivation is just artificially simulating the way it is naturally generated, while composition is to use raw materials to directly make finished products. This is quite like alchemy, using the most basic element to directly construct the human body. However, in general literary works, refining the human body is an absolute forbidden zone. This is something that only God is allowed to do, and humans are absolutely not allowed to do it. But now, the clones, or the unknown civilization behind the clones, have broken this forbidden zone. They printed out the human body with materials that are so simple that they can't be simpler. Jiang Sheng even suspected that the entire body of the clone might be composed of this simple 80% protein, 19% water, and 1% unknown. So the clones are actually blocks of protein? If this is the case, it is not difficult to explain why the clones can be full by eating guanine soil. Maybe their various body functions are simply to imitate humans, and maybe everything they do for survival is actually not necessary at all. They don't even need to breathe. Just because of a certain artificial setting, they must absorb oxygen and then expel carbon dioxide. Everything is to make them look more like humans. Chapter 27 Magical Algae. Cycle 6 Colonial Report. Details of the clones. Calories produced. 8,000 cal consumption. 6,000 cal net value. 2,000 cal stress increase. 4% decrease. 0% net value. 4% disease status, no sick clones. Time details, working time. 56%. Walking time. 10% idle time. 0% base details, oxygen output. 22.5 kilograms, consumption. 1.5 kilograms net value. 21 kilograms comprehensive evaluation. Survival points plus 15 after a day of yesterday. The cave above the base was finally dug. As Jiang Sheng expected, the base of 3 people is now a little busy. Yesterday, when Bly and Owen were digging caves above the base, they needed to come back from time to time to maintain the equipment of the base. For example, the running wheel of the human generator and the addition of algae to the oxygen diffuser. Frequent return to the base to operate the equipment also greatly increased the walking time yesterday compared with the previous few days. It is not a good thing for the clones to walk more, because the working time of the clones is fixed. The longer the walking time, the more labor is wasted. Moreover, Jiang Sheng discovered yesterday afternoon that the food reserves were insufficient, so he adjusted the priority again and asked Owen to operate the food compressor first to make 10 servings of mud cakes first. The clones will eat once a day after getting up in the morning. When there is enough food, each clone will eat a fixed 2,000 cal of food, which is 2.5 mud cakes, and no one will eat more. As for the remaining half of the mud cake, The clone will put it back in the ration box. Other clones will not eat other people's leftovers. This half of the mud cake will be left for the clone with leftovers to eat next time. Therefore, you can often see half-eaten mud cakes in the ration box. If the food is insufficient, the clones will not be so united. This was the case yesterday. Jiang Sheng was always directing the development of the upper cave and forgot to check the food situation in the colony. There were 3,600 cal of food left in the ration box yesterday morning, which contained one half of the mud cake left by Bly, Owen, and Bly and 3 complete mud cakes. Owen, who ate first, ate half of his own slime cake and 2 whole slime cakes, which was exactly 2,000 cal of food. The second person to eat was Jiang Sheng, who ate half of his own slime cake and the last whole slime cake, and got 1,200 cal of food. When Bly was the last to eat, there was only half of his slime cake left in the ration box, so he only ate 400 cal of food. When the replicants are short of food, they will distribute food to everyone according to the order of eating, and first ensure that the people who eat in front get enough food. This is a bit like getting food in the cafeteria. The first one to eat is not taken care of, and the last one to eat is left with leftover soup and rice. Fortunately, it will not cause much impact on the replicants to starve for a day or a half. Bly, who was hungry for half a day, had a somewhat sluggish expression when working, and there was not much change in his physical data. The development of the upper cave was also delayed by many events. It took a whole day to dig out a 16x3x4 space, and the bricks were not laid until it was time to go to bed. When Jiang Sheng woke up this morning, he found that the food in the colony was not enough again, so he asked Owen to use the food compressor to make 20 servings of slime cakes. Jiang Sheng did not plan to stock up on slime cakes. They tasted bad and had germs on them. They were not a long-term food source. They could be made as they were eaten. Fortunately, the research at the research station could be completed today. The new technology unlock might provide new food sources. At around 9 o'clock in the evening, after 30 hours of research, the technology in the research station was finally completed. During these 30 hours, Bly was not distracted by anything other than eating, excreting, and sleeping, so the research speed was still very fast. As long as the replicant enters the research state, the replicant will continue to research. Even if the priority of other work is adjusted to a higher level, it will never be distracted, and no one can be replaced in the middle of the research. Perhaps only the priority of can distract the replicant in the research state. Therefore, the next research must wait until another high scientific replicant arrives in the base, so that the replicant with higher research efficiency can perform the research work exclusively, which can also be regarded as a kind of labor saving. The basic farming technology was unlocked, and Jiang Sheng also hurriedly checked the 4 new buildings in this technology. Ration box can store a small amount of food. Storage: 150 kg materials, 400 kg of sand and gravel, etc. Store food to prevent other small animals from stealing, but cannot extend the shelf life of food. At first glance, this seems to be the ration box in the starting base, but in fact, Jiang Sheng took a closer look and found that the basic materials of the two are not the same. The ration box given at the beginning is made of igneous rock as the raw material, and the default building material of this ration box is sand and gravel. The finished building will gain additional effects based on the properties of the material. The most basic sand and gravel material has no additional effects, but the igneous rock ration box can obtain an additional effect of strong insulation and slow heating. From the perspective of preserving food, slow heating should be a positive attribute, so the igneous rock ration box is definitely better than the sand and gravel ration box. It's a pity that Jiang Sheng has not obtained any igneous rocks now, but in fact, he doesn't need it. With the current food reserves of the colony, the ration boxes given at the beginning are completely sufficient, and there is no need to build new ration boxes. Algae box: consume algae and water to produce oxygen, and remove part of the carbon dioxide at the same time. Under light, it can obtain a 10% efficiency bonus. Requirements: 0.5 g/s of algae, 10 g/s of water effect. 0.7 g/s of oxygen, 9.833 g/s of polluted water, and 33.333 mg/s of carbon dioxide consumed materials. 200 kilograms of sand and gravel plus 400 kilograms of soil, etc. Algae group, copy group, they are just similar. Although this building is unlocked in food technology, it is classified as oxygen technology in the building interface, and its effect is indeed done relative to food. However, unlike the oxygen diffuser, the algae box does not require electricity and consumes very little algae, only 1/30 of the oxygen diffuser, and can consume carbon dioxide while generating oxygen. Jiang Sheng calculated that, if 33.333 milligrams of carbon dioxide can be consumed per second, 2,879.712 grams of carbon dioxide can be consumed in 24 hours. This is more carbon dioxide than a replicant produces in one day. But this does not mean that the algae box is an oxygen production building that is better than the oxygen diffuser, because the algae box consumes too much water as sources 10 grams per second. 864 kilograms of water will be consumed in 24 hours, nearly 1 ton of water consumption per day, and polluted water will be generated. This is simply terrifying. Moreover, the mechanism of this algae box is similar to farming, which means that it cannot automatically switch on and off according to the situation of the base like an oxygen diffuser, and the oxygen production speed cannot cope with the large-scale development of the colony. The most important point is that it is mentioned in the introduction that the algae box can obtain a 10% efficiency bonus under light. On the other hand, the algae box can also perform photosynthesis under non-light conditions. What kind of magical algae is this? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Planter Box and Compost Pile Planning. When Jiang Sheng first saw the glowworms in the algae cave, he subconsciously thought that the plants and algae here could also perform photosynthesis like on Earth. But from the introduction of the algae box, in the absence of light, algae can still absorb carbon dioxide and eliminate oxygen. The so-called photosynthesis is just Jiang Sheng's wishful thinking. But light can indeed increase the efficiency of algae. And although the principle of the algae box seems to be to produce oxygen by cultivating algae, why is the algae always in a state of being consumed? The same is true for the previous oxygen diffuser. If you use common sense on Earth to delve into its oxygen production principle, you will find that this is not reasonable at all. When it comes to algae oxygen production, the most direct method that can be thought of is that algae produces oxygen through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis itself does not consume algae, but whether it is an oxygen diffuser or an algae box, algae need to be consumed continuously, just a fast consumption rate and a slow consumption rate. All kinds of evidence prove that the algae on Noah are not the algae on Earth that Jiang Sheng is familiar with, and the last sentence in the introduction of the algae box seems a bit scary. Algae colonies, clone colonies. They are just similar. If the algae colonies refer to the algae in Noah, then the clone colonies are obviously clones. They are just similar. The next building to be unlocked is called the compost pile, which is the first technology in the refining technology. Compost pile, degrade contaminated soil and other compost materials into soil. Requirements: 0.7 g/s of compost material effect. 0.7 g/s of soil, 1.13 kg/s of heat materials, 800 kilograms of sand and gravel, etc. The compost pile can safely handle biological waste, but they prefer to keep a certain distance from it. Although this building has nothing to do with food, it is indeed one of the buildings that Jiang Sheng needs very much at the moment, and it is more practical than the algae box. The last building is the one that Jiang Sheng is most looking forward to. It is also the only one of the 4 new buildings that belongs to food technology. Planting box. Cultivate seeds and seedlings into plants. Requirements: duplicate operation effect. Enable the cultivation rights of plants materials. 200 kilograms of gravel plus 100 kilograms of soil, etc. Cultivated plants will mature faster than wild plants, but they will work harder. This is the complete introduction of the 4 buildings. After reading the introduction of these buildings, Jiang Sheng discovered the difference between the basic technology at the beginning and the technology researched by the research station. That is, all basic building materials can only be built with one material, either gravel or copper ore. The technology unlocked by the research station will be more diverse in the choice of building materials, and different material choices can obtain more additional properties. Unfortunately, the most material Jiang Sheng has is still the basic material such as gravel. Some advanced materials have not been excavated by Jiang Sheng, and he has not even seen them in the bright range of the material view. That is to say, the buildings that have been built now still have the possibility of upgrading the materials in the future. Anyway, the replicants will not consume materials when using production guns to build and demolish. Now that he has understood the situation of the new buildings, Jiang Sheng began to plan the construction tasks. The cave above the base has been developed and all the bricks have been laid, and Jiang Sheng can use it. Jiang Sheng first asked Bly to build a planting box to see how big it was. In less than 10 minutes, the planting box was built. The finished planting box is actually a huge square flower pot filled with Noah's soil. Jiang Sheng estimated that the flower pot of each planting box occupies an area of nearly 1 square meter. The area of the cave above is 16x3, which means that 48 planting boxes can be built at most. If the entire cave is filled with planting boxes, there is still enough space between the planting boxes for people to pass through, but they just need to walk sideways. But these clones are very stupid on the route. Jiang Sheng has tested it before, and of course he needs to test it this time. Jiang Sheng asked the clones to build 2 more planting boxes, which are connected to the previous 3 planting boxes, just enough to form a row, blocking the way through the left side of the cave. If it were Jiang Sheng, he could pass through the gap between the 2 planting boxes, or directly step over the planting box that has not planted any plants, but the clones can't. No matter how Jiang Sheng gave the movement command, the 3 clones stood still. By default, the clones cannot cross the buildings on the ground when they are moving, and the 2 buildings are next to each other at the unit level. Even if there is a gap between the 2, the clones will not pass by default. After understanding this mechanism, Jiang Sheng also thought about the construction method of the planting box. The area of the cave is 16x3. In order to ensure that the clones can pass through, they can only leave a road in the middle of the cave and plant planting boxes on both sides. That is, 16x2 planting boxes. In fact, this cave can hold up to 16x2 plus 1 planting boxes, and 1 more planting box can be placed at the end of the middle road. But Jiang Sheng plans to open an up and down passage on the other side of the cave in the future, so he did not do so. After planning the construction task of the upper cave, Jiang Sheng came to the outdoor toilet of the base. Opening the fenced door of the outdoor toilet, the contaminated soil in the pit is about to overflow again. This time Jiang Sheng doesn't want to go in and be a shit shoveler himself. Therefore, the compost pile in the new building also needs to be built. As long as there is a compost pile and the contaminated soil has a placement method recognized by the clones, they can deal with the dirt in the toilet by themselves. There is no capacity limit for the compost pile, but there is a fixed processing speed for contaminated soil. Jiang Sheng doesn't know whether the clones go to the toilet in big or small ways, but the clones go to the toilet about 2 to 3 times a day, and each time they go to the toilet, they consume a fixed 6.7 kilograms of soil and produce 6.7 kilograms of contaminated soil. Assuming that the clones go to the toilet 3 times a day, the 3 clones in the base will produce 60.3 kilograms of contaminated soil every day. The degradation rate of the compost pile is 0.7 grams per second, and it can process 60.48 kilograms of contaminated soil in a day. It is just right to build a compost pile for every 3 clones. It can even process 0.18 kilograms of contaminated soil that Jiang Sheng had hoarded before. But Jiang Sheng does not plan to build the compost pile next to the outdoor toilet, but plans to let the clones dig out a small space first, and then place the compost pile there. Because the compost pile must have a very strong smell, Placing it in the base will definitely pollute the air. Although the compost pile does not need electricity, it produces a lot of heat. Buildings that produce heat, but do not need to be operated continuously are best placed in the lower space, which is the industrial area that Jiang Sheng defaulted to. But where to place it in the lower space will need to be considered tomorrow, because it is already 10 o'clock in the evening and the clone should go to bed. Chapter 29. They are upgrading. Cycle 7 Colonial Report. Details of the clones. Calories produced. 16,000 cal consumption. 6,000 cal net value. 12,000 cal stress increase. 7% decrease. 0% net value. 4% disease status, no sick clones. Time details, working time. 55%. Walking time. 10% idle time. 1% base details, oxygen output. 4.5 kilograms, consumption. 1.5 kilograms net value. 3 kilograms overall evaluation, survival points plus 15. After waking up in the morning and coming to Noah, Jiang Sheng found that the clones were a little different. Bly, upgradable personal skills. Owen, upgradable personal skills. These two prompts exuded a faint golden light in Jiang Sheng's field of vision, and it was impossible to ignore them. But Jiang Sheng did not see these two prompts yesterday. These two prompts only appeared today. Upgradable personal skills. Jiang Sheng's mind moved, and he opened the clones' resumes, only to see that plus appeared behind all the skill data of Bly and Owen, and each skill data was flashing. Jiang Sheng, who has some gaming experience, knows that this should mean that their personal skills can be upgraded. It turns out that the personal skills of the clones can be further upgraded. In fact, Jiang Sheng had never paid much attention to the skills of the clones before, until he built a research station and began to unlock the technology tree, and then he found that people with certain skills were quite necessary for the development of the colony, especially science. And even these commonly used skills have a subtle impact on the colony. For example, on the first day, Jiang Sheng discovered that when Bly and Owen were digging at the same time, the size of the sand and gravel blocks they absorbed at the same time was different. Or when transporting blocks, Bly could transport more blocks each time. And Bly Sheng, his construction speed is much faster than Bly and Owen. If the skills cannot be upgraded, this gap will not be too obvious, but if the skills can be upgraded, there is a lot to be done. Because Jiang Sheng can train each clone into a professional who specializes in a certain job, a 1-point difference in skills can cause a 10% difference in work efficiency. If a professional with 10 points in a single skill can be trained, wouldn't it be twice as efficient as a normal 0-skill clone in a certain job? A building that takes 20 minutes to build can be completed in 10 minutes, and a space that takes a day to dig can be completed in half a day. This is directly one person can do the work of 2 people. Just think about it, and it will be infinitely beautiful. But how do clones upgrade? Jiang Sheng thought about it carefully. There is no experience bar or something like that on the clones, so the only factor that can upgrade is time. It has been 7 days since Bly and Owen were printed out of the printing cabin, and the age column in their resumes also says 8 cycles. In other words, every 7 days of living in Noah, you can get a chance to upgrade your skills. This is the only possibility Jiang Sheng can think of, because Bly Sheng, who came to Noah later, did not show any signs of upgrading himself. If it is upgraded every 7 days, it will take more than 2 months for a single skill to go from 0 to 10. This time is too long. If a human can double his ability to do a certain job in 2 months, then this person is an absolute genius. But when it comes to clones, Jiang Sheng feels that it is too slow to reach. The personal skill upgrade of the clone is that all 9 skills can be upgraded, but if you want to upgrade a skill that has a certain ability to 10 points, it will save a lot of time compared to other skills with 0 points. In other words, it is not impossible to upgrade a clone with outstanding ability in a certain aspect from skill 0, but it will take more time. It seems that finding a directional genetic blueprint is still very important. After confirming this, Jiang Sheng began to select personal skills for Bly and Owen. Bly only has an 8 data in 2 skills, namely strength and mining. Strength corresponds to the carrying and combat capabilities of the clone. Combat ability has not been found to have any use yet, but carrying ability does play a very important role in sorting out ground blocks. However, placing blocks on the ground does not cause any obstacles to the movement of the clone, nor does it cause the loss of resources. The only effect is that it is not very beautiful. Apart from this, no other disadvantages have been found. Moreover, sorting blocks requires both storage space and labor, so in the short term, the blocks in Noah should not be sorted. Jiang Sheng only needs to ensure that there are not too many blocks in the base, and he will not trip over them. So Jiang Sheng does not plan to upgrade strength, but to upgrade mining. The mining skill represents the ability of the clone to mine resources. In other words, it is a miner. This skill is the most practical in the underground colony. With a thought, Bly's skill data shook and returned to its previous state. It's just that Bly's mining skill has changed from 3 to 4, which means that Bly's mining efficiency has increased by 10%. Then it's Owen. Owen has made achievements in strength, medical treatment, cooking, and creation, but his strength is -3, and the others are 5, 1, and 3 respectively. If calculated according to innate ability, the most suitable skill for Owen to upgrade is medical treatment. But medical treatment is similar to combat, and judging from the current situation of the colony, it is a completely redundant ability. But the starting point of the remaining cooking skill is too low, only 1 point, and creation doesn't feel useful, so the only choice is to upgrade medical treatment. When Jiang Sheng didn't understand the skills of the clones at the beginning, he thought Owen was much better than Bly, but now it seems that Bly is the most practical clone at this stage. After upgrading Owen's medical treatment, Owen's medical skills changed from 5 to 6. At the same time, a prompt appeared on the left side of Jiang Sheng's vision. This clone can use the career station to assign a career. The career station is marked in eye-catching red fonts, and Jiang Sheng knows that this is a certain building. He opened the technology tree and looked for it. The first technology in the colony development technology, the career station building, is included in the career management. The specific attributes of the career station cannot be seen, but Jiang Sheng can see that the function of the career station is to assign careers to clones. There are career plans for clones? This is too social. It seems that the management of clones is not as simple as Jiang Sheng imagined. In the future, as the colony develops, there may be more possibilities to unlock. However, although Jiang Sheng now knows that clones can be assigned careers, and Owen has met the conditions for assigning careers, Jiang Sheng does not intend to study the technology tree and unlock the career station immediately, because the current base does not need 2 professional clones, and these clones are enough to cope with the current stage of production. If it is to satisfy your curiosity, then it is possible, but it is not necessary. Because it is not a strategy, it will not follow the version. Chapter 30 I believe in the Book of Changes. In order to further enrich students' extracurricular life, strengthen the cultivation of college students' interests and hobbies, show the youthful style of contemporary college students, prosper campus culture, create a lively cultural atmosphere, and highlight the outspoken personality, the C9 University Alliance will vigorously promote campus culture construction and promote the new 100 groups recruitment activity for all C9 students. Bly sent the file sent in the class group to Jiang Sheng again. The purpose was very simple, just to remind Jiang Sheng that there were only 3 days left for the new 100 groups recruitment activity. The 100 groups recruitment activity is held every semester, which is the time for university clubs to recruit new members, but this year's new 100 groups recruitment activity is a bit special, because it is almost mandatory. The front of the document lists countless benefits of participating in university clubs, but the last one is the most important. The students' club activity record will be counted in the credit system. If you are a top student with extra credits, it doesn't matter if you lack these few credits for club activities. But Jiang Sheng doesn't have extra credits. If club activities are part of the credits, then Jiang Sheng will definitely not be able to graduate normally if he doesn't participate in club activities. Maybe C9 noticed that there are too many lazy people like Jiang Sheng in the school, so they introduced such a policy. In short, if Jiang Sheng wants to graduate normally, the easiest way now is to join a club. Thank you. Jiang Sheng replied to Bly and Owen on WeChat to express his gratitude. Noah's affairs are enough now, and Jiang Sheng doesn't want to be distracted by other things. But if he can't graduate because of insufficient credits, there will definitely be more troubles in the future. So Jiang Sheng wants to join a club now and get all the credits first. Walking on the square of Jiang Sheng University, the flyers of various clubs are standing in various positions in the square to distribute flyers, and the campus is also full of banners of various clubs. Esports Enthusiasts Association. You can do everything before graduation, and all juniors can join the association, and you are guaranteed to be taught, trained, and married. You who love basketball are always the most handsome. The basketball club welcomes you. You have taken pictures of the sea, but I have taken pictures of you. Photography Association. I have confirmed your eyes, and you are the screst person. Rap Enthusiasts Association. Dance your youth. Dance out yourself. Dance club. Live up to the spring breeze, and live up to you. 3 lives in 3 worlds. You and I. Ancient costume romance drama lovers association. Funny fruits under the funny tree. Lots of joy. Emoji lovers association. In addition to some traditional club projects, there are many more niche fan associations this year. This is also the feature of this year's 100 groups recruitment. As long as there are more than 5 people applying together, and the club content is approved, a fan association can be established. Fan associations are one level lower than ordinary clubs and associations, but credits are calculated as usual, mainly to take care of those students who have never participated in clubs and have niche hobbies. Although the addition of these fan associations has enriched the types of clubs, there is still no club that Jiang Sheng likes. This is caused by Jiang Sheng's personality. He is generally interested in everything and has no special hobbies. However, Jiang Sheng is more enthusiastic about Noah recently. I wonder if this can be considered an interest? Classmate, do you like playing computer games? If you like, you can come to our Electronics Enthusiasts Association to have a look. Is it that kind of FPS game? We have that kind, but currently it's mainly MOBA, with girls, and you can play with 5 people. How about it? Are you interested? I'll think about it. A person from the Electronics Enthusiasts Association came over to chat with Jiang Sheng in the crowd, probably because he thought Jiang Sheng had that kind of temperament. But in fact, they were wrong. Although Jiang Sheng had played a lot of games, he basically gave up after playing for 2 days and never played the same game for more than 3 days. To put it bluntly, he didn't have the slightest esports spirit. So Jiang Sheng was not the person they were looking for. As for the girls, it was just so-so. Jiang Sheng slowly strolled along the banner of the club and unknowingly walked out of the campus and entered the neighboring Huaqing University. The 9 universities in C9 University Town are almost connected together, and there is almost no sense of distance between the schools. The interior of Huaqing University is similar to that of Jiang Sheng University. It is also carrying out the 100 groups recruitment activity, and all the clubs in C9 are interconnected. Jiang Sheng can also consider finding a club in Huaqing University. But in fact, the club situation of Huaqing University is similar to that of Jiang Sheng University, and there is no club that Jiang Sheng wants to join. Suddenly, a club caught Jiang Sheng's attention. Divination Club. The banner was very small, with only 4 words Divination Club on it, but these 4 words alone were enough to attract people who are interested in this area to come and inquire. Because this hobby is so niche, if you miss this club, it will be difficult to find other clubs related to divination in C9. However, Jiang Sheng stopped in front of the banner to watch, not because he was interested in divination, but because the flyer that the owner of the breakfast shop downstairs from his rental house gave him was an advertisement for the Divination Club. But now thinking about it, Jiang Sheng is still a little curious about what the club activities in the Divination Club are like. Face reading? Or palm reading? Classmate, let's learn about the Divination Club. A flyer was handed over from the side, which scared Jiang Sheng, who was thinking. Turning his head to look at the source of the flyer, he saw a pretty girl with 2 pigtails, wearing denim overalls and a red and black plaid shirt, with a petite and cute face. Alas! Jiang Sheng somehow exclaimed in his heart. Influenced by some film and television works, Jiang Sheng thought that people who like fortune telling would have gloomy looks and speak mysteriously. But he didn't expect the girl who came to hand out flyers to look so normal. He picked up the flyer and saw that it was indeed the flyer given to him by the owner of the breakfast shop. Student, the main activities of our divination club are to learn about tarot culture and study the history of Western mysticism. Tarot is an ancient divination tool that has become popular in the West since the Middle Ages. It has 78 cards, including 22 major arcana cards and 56 minor arcana cards. They can be used separately or mixed together for divination. The Fool and the Hanged Man, which we often hear about in literary works, are actually derived from tarot culture. The girl began to introduce the main activities of the divination club to Jiang Sheng, and even explained tarot culture to Jiang Sheng. Because the hobby of tarot culture is indeed niche, every member must actively strive to obtain it. When Jiang Sheng heard her first sentence, he did not smile and refuse, which means that Jiang Sheng is interested in tarot, which means that he has the possibility of becoming a member. At present, the girl has regarded Jiang Sheng as the key development target of her club. After explaining for 5 minutes, the girl finally finished. How about it? Are you interested in joining our club? In response, Jiang Sheng smiled awkwardly and said, actually, I believe in the Book of Changes. Chapter 31, All for the Genetic Blueprint. In fact, the divination club is not a real divination club. When applying for the club, the full name of this club is called Tarot Culture Enthusiasts Association. It's just that considering that tarot cards are too niche, if you directly use the name of tarot cards to recruit people, people may not want to come over and ask just by hearing the name. In order to retain a chance to promote to people who don't know tarot culture, Tankakesen changed the name of the club to Divination Club when promoting it. Even if you don't know tarot cards, if you say it's divination, there will always be some people who will be interested. But I didn't expect to meet Jiang Sheng, a tough guy. Zhao Yi. Tankakesen was surprised by Jiang Sheng's unexpected answer. These days, whenever I introduce tarot cards to others, most people will directly smile and shake their heads to refuse, and a few people will politely reply I'll think about it after listening, and then there will be no news. But this is the first time Tankakesen has met someone who directly said that he believes in Zhao Yi. It's okay, it's okay. Our club doesn't discuss faith, but only exchanges culture. Tarot cards are also known as the Western I Ching. We should have a lot of topics to talk about. As she spoke, Tankakesen took a step closer to Jiang Sheng, and a faint fragrance came over her. Her eager eyes seemed to be looking forward to the answer. Okay, I'll join your club. Hearing Jiang Sheng finally say the answer, Tankakesen jumped up excitedly. The 2 straps of her denim overalls jumped away from her shoulders in the air. She looked energetic, like a little girl who got her favorite gift. Jiang Sheng didn't know what kind of person this girl was, but to see through what she was thinking, he shouldn't need to use advanced techniques such as divination. After a few seconds, Tankakesen calmed down and began to introduce herself. Formally introduce myself. My name is Tankakesen. I'm a freshman and I'm studying public art at King University. Jiang Sheng, I'm a junior, and I'm studying environmental science at Jiang Sheng University. So you are my senior. I'm so sorry. Jiang Sheng was about to reach out and shake hands with Tankakesen, but Tankakesen turned around and ran away without noticing Jiang Sheng's intention to shake hands. Forget it, let's talk about it later when there is a chance. After a while, Tankakesen took out a club registration form from somewhere. Jiang Sheng filled out the registration form according to the prompts, and then he and Tankakesen exchanged contact information. That's it for now. You are from Jiang Sheng University, so it is not convenient for you to stay here all the time to help promote the club, so I won't bother you during this period. But remember to come to the first club activity after the 100 groups recruit new members. After saying that, Tankakesen put away the registration form and continued to distribute flyers in other places with the flyers. This is in line with Jiang Sheng's wishes. After all, he has been spending most of his spare time in Noah recently, so how can he have the time to come out and help promote the club? As for why he wanted to join this club, on the one hand, it was because Jiang Sheng really needed to join a club to settle the credits problem. On the other hand, this club had the opportunity to legitimately collect genetic blueprints. In fact, when Jiang Sheng introduced himself as a believer in the Book of Changes, it was not because he really believed in the Book of Changes, but with a purpose. As long as he said that he believed in the Book of Changes when he first signed up, it would leave an impression on people. Oh, this person believes in the Book of Changes. As long as others believe that he believes in the Book of Changes, it would be much easier to collect genetic blueprints in the future. Because when thinking of the divination in the Book of Changes, the easiest thing for most people to think of is palm reading. During club activities, he can legitimately obtain the genetic blueprints of other people in the club under the name of palm reading. This is a more legitimate reason than a handshake. Obtaining a genetic blueprint requires skin contact for a period of time. The handshake of normal people during socializing is only 2 seconds, which is not enough to obtain a genetic blueprint. But with the reason of palm reading, no one will say anything, even if he contacts for 1 minute. Now I hope there will be as many people as possible in the fortune telling club, so that the possibility of obtaining the genetic blueprint I need will be higher. It is difficult for people to have a concept of time in Noah. Noah's colony is a closed space, and a closed space can easily make people lose the concept of time. Sometimes it feels like a long time has passed, but in fact only 10 minutes have passed. Sometimes it feels like only half an hour has passed, but in fact the whole afternoon has passed. Since it is not easy to bring a mobile phone in Noah, and Jiang Sheng does not have a timekeeping tool such as a watch, Jiang Sheng bought a wall clock in the store on the way back. Back in Noah, hang the wall clock above the study table in the base, just where you can see it when you look up. This study table was purchased by Jiang Sheng online. Jiang Sheng is not going to study in Noah, but to place his personal belongings. For example, many collected environmental samples, portable oxygen tanks, protective clothing, miner's hats and other necessary tools for going out for adventure. Under the table is the egg in the dog cage. Delicious Hatch's egg, the eggs of a magical underground creature. Their personalities are exactly the same as their names. Wildness. 100% hatching rate. 72.4% activity. 100%, except that the hatching rate has increased a lot compared to the first day. There are no other changes. If the hatching rate is followed, it will hatch in 3 days at most. Jiang Sheng is looking forward to the hatching of this thing, because if it hatches, it will be the first animal he has captured in Noah. What will the animal hatched from eggs look like? Of course, in addition to curiosity about unknown things, there are also some concerns about their own safety. Will this creature be aggressive? Fortunately, there are attack commands among the clone commands that he can operate, which means that the clone has attack power. It should be difficult to grow such threatening animals in this nutrient-poor underground, so the clone's attack power should be enough to protect himself. Jiang Sheng sometimes even feels that this dog cage is not used to protect himself, but to protect this egg. Because when the clone is eating, he will look at the egg under the study table from time to time. Especially on the day when Bly was hungry, he would look at the egg from time to time, even when he was working. It seems that this delicious hatch egg should be a highly recognized food in the eyes of the clones. Fortunately, the clones still absolutely abide by the rules. Although sometimes they can't help but reveal some special emotions, as long as it is Jiang Sheng's personal property, no matter whether it is beneficial to them or not, the clones will not touch it. Chapter 32 Two plants in the plantation. On the left side of the base, the clone dug out another up and down passage, laid a ladder, and dug out a very small space on the left side below the base. This space is used to place the compost pile. It is very close to the outdoor toilet. From the exit leading to the oxygen cave on the left side of the outdoor toilet, you can go down through the up and down passages to reach it. It is far away from the main activity area of Jiang Sheng and the clones, so there is no need to worry about being affected by the odor. The compost pile is used to degrade biological waste. According to Jiang Sheng's calculations, only one can cope with the daily production of contaminated soil by 3 clones. In other words, only one compost pile is needed at present. The built compost pile is actually a conical soil bag made of sand and gravel. The clone will use the production gun to absorb the contaminated soil in the outdoor toilet into the production gun, and then evenly spread the contaminated soil on the soil bag, and then the clone will not have to do anything. From this point of view, the role of the compost pile is actually to increase the contact area between the contaminated soil and the air. If there is enough space and no fear of odor, spreading the contaminated soil in the base should have the same effect. In this case, Jiang Sheng also has a way to deal with the contaminated soil that has been stored in the rental house. Just like the clones, he spreads the contaminated soil on the compost pile little by little. The weight of contaminated soil that a compost pile can handle every day is fixed, but the weight of contaminated soil that a compost pile can handle every day is more than the weight of contaminated soil produced by 3 clones using outdoor toilets. In this way, Jiang Sheng only needs to spread more contaminated soil on it every day, so that he can slowly deal with the contaminated soil that he had previously placed in the rental house. Why not build another compost pile? This way, the contaminated soil in his rental house can be quickly dealt with. Because Jiang Sheng thinks that this compost pile should be a short-term building and should not be built forever, the space Jiang Sheng opened up for the compost pile is extremely small. It is not a separate cave space, but more like a closet on the wall, and there is no room for a second compost pile. And there is no more labor to open up the lower space at the moment. Above the base, the clones have built all the planting boxes according to Jiang Sheng's plan. Now that there are planting boxes, plants can be planted. There are a certain amount of plants in the algae cave, and Jiang Sheng plans to transplant the plants there into his own planting box first. Jiang Sheng put on protective clothing, portable oxygen tanks and miner's hats, and came to the algae cave. The plants here are almost indistinguishable from the first time he saw them, and all the plants are still in the seedling stage. Jiang Sheng commanded the clones to transplant the plants on the ground into their own planting boxes. Bly and Owen raised the production gun, and like a vacuum cleaner sucking up dust on the ground, they sucked the plant seedlings on the ground into the production gun. Unlike excavation and construction, the production gun did not decompose the plants when absorbing them, but just sucked the whole plant seedling into the production gun. Although the algae cave looks like it is full of plants, Jiang Sheng actually judged it only by the green on the ground. Most of these greens are ordinary algae, not plants that can be cultivated in planting boxes. In the end, through the operation of the clones, only 22 seedlings of one kind were cultivated in the planting box. In addition to the 6 seeds that the replicants found in the soil when they were digging, there are a total of 28 planting boxes planted with plants, and there are still 4 planting boxes left unused. Although each planting box is very large, with an area of nearly 1 square meter, it is reasonable to plant quite a lot of plants in it, but the replicants will only plant 1 plant in each planting box. After doing soil testing, Jiang Sheng knew that the land here was very poor, so Jiang Sheng guessed that the nutrients in the soil in a planting box should be enough to feed only 1 plant, so only 1 plant was planted in each planting box. After the plants are planted in the planting boxes, Jiang Sheng can check the planting box information to understand what plants he has planted. Rice lice tree. Planting rice lice trees can produce rice lice, which are strange worms that can be used as food. Seed harvesting probability. 10% wild growth conditions. Maturation in 15 cycles. Oxygen or polluted oxygen or carbon dioxide. 1030 cultivation growth conditions. Maturation in 3 cycles. Oxygen or polluted oxygen or carbon dioxide. 1030. 10 kilograms of soil/cycle current growth progress. 21%. Why create such a strange creature? If Jiang Sheng hadn't seen the plant description in the planting box, he would never have thought that a plant seedling that looked so normal would be such a weird plant, or an animal. According to the description in the introduction, this plant called rice wormwood seems to be a plant in the seedling stage, but the fruit it produces in the mature stage is an animal. Jiang Sheng has never heard of such a weird creature. On Earth, it seems that only Cordyceps sinensis has a similar weird mechanism. Cordyceps sinensis is a complex of Cordyceps sinensis fungi and bat moth larvae. To put it bluntly, the fungus parasitizes on the insect larvae to absorb the insect's nutrients. After the larvae die, the fungus penetrates the larva's body, making it look like a single plant. But the mechanism of the wormwood is obviously different from that of Cordyceps sinensis. Moreover, Jiang Sheng did not find the condition of light in the growth conditions of the wormwood. That is, the growth of the wormwood does not actually require a light source, and without a light source, there is no need for photosynthesis. Moreover, the wormwood takes 15 days to mature in the wild, while it only takes 3 days in the cultivation environment. In contrast, 10 kilograms of soil are consumed every day. Jiang Sheng does not think that the growth of plants requires the consumption of soil from a physical level, which should refer to the consumption of nutrients in 10 kilograms of soil. But even so, the clones are required to change the soil for each wormwood every day, and the soil that has lost nutrients can no longer be used to grow plants. There are now 15 of these weird plants in the plantation, that is, more than half of them are wormwood. The remaining 13 plants are another plant called thornflower. Thornflower. Planting thornflowers can produce thorn berries, an edible thorny bud. Seed harvest probability. 10% wild growth conditions. 30 cycles to mature. Oxygen or polluted oxygen or carbon dioxide. 1030. Light cultivation growth conditions. 6 cycles to mature. Oxygen or polluted oxygen or carbon dioxide. 1030. Light. 10 kilograms of water/cycle current growth progress. 14%. These thorns are really redundant. The fruits of both plants can be used as food, but Jiang Sheng does not know how many fruits these two plants can produce each time and the energy each fruit can provide, so he cannot calculate the food output of these plants. But Jiang Sheng knows that the clones will soon be able to get rid of the days of eating guano in soil. Chapter 33 Stress Response and Decompression. Cycle 8 Colonial Report. Details of the clones. Calories produced. 0 cal consumption. 6,000 cal net value, minus 6,000 cal stress increase. 10% decrease. 0% net value. 10% disease status, no sick clones. Time details, working time. 58%. Walking time. 8% idle time. 0% base details, oxygen output. 14.5 kilograms, consumption. 1.5 kilograms net value. 13 kilograms comprehensive evaluation, survival points plus 15 Bly stress value. 25% Owen stress value. 33% Bly and Owen stress value. 5% This is the current stress situation of the three clones, which can be said to be very pessimistic. Owen's stress is the highest among the three clones, and the stress has reached 33%, and only 8 cycles have passed. Although the stress of the clones will not change as quickly as other basic attributes, stress does have a subtle impact on the clones. Once the stress value of the clones reaches 100%, the clones will start their own stress response. In the replicant's resume, each replicant has his own stress response. Bly's stress response is destruction, Owen's stress response is foul language, and Bly and Owen's stress response is laziness. There are detailed introductions to these three stress responses, and Jiang Sheng can understand what these stress responses are like. Destruction will periodically destroy buildings within sight. If the stress of the replicant is not relieved, the replicant will continue to destroy indefinitely. Foul language, speak badly to the replicants around, greatly increasing the stress value of other replicants. Laziness, reduce work efficiency by 50%. If the stress of the replicant is not relieved, the replicant will stop working indefinitely. Bly and Owen stress reactions will not be particularly severe at the beginning, but if their stress values cannot be reduced, their stress reactions will become more and more severe until they become useless. Owen's stress reaction is more special, and the effect should remain unchanged. From the introduction, it seems that it does not affect the work, but it will affect the stress values of other replicants. Jiang Sheng guessed that Owen's stress response was to add a debuff to other clones, increasing the stress of other clones in the form of debuff. Jiang Sheng had seen the power of debuffs. Bly and Owen only came to know it 2 days earlier than Bly and Owen, but they had so much more stress than Bly and Owen, all because of the debuff of poor sleep quality. Although the three clones no longer have debuffs, their stress values are still increasing, and the growth rate is getting faster and faster. In other words, debuffs are the biggest cause of the clone's stress growth, and in addition, there are some small items that will continue to affect the clone's stress. One of these small items that Jiang Sheng can confirm is food. There are differences in the quality of Noah's food. The two foods that Jiang Sheng has encountered so far, nutrition bars are disgusting, and slime cakes are very disgusting. Eating this quality of food, the basic physical data of the clones do not have any abnormal changes, so the difference in food quality can only be reflected in stress. However, if you want to solve the problem of food growth pressure, you still need to wait a few days, because the plantation was only planted yesterday, and it will take several cycles under the cultivation conditions to harvest. Apart from food, Jiang Sheng did not find any items that could affect the pressure of the clones. In other words, this colony itself is the source of pressure. The colony is a closed space, which is very easy to bring pressure to people. As long as they continue to live here, even the most optimistic human beings may not be able to keep a normal heart. Jiang Sheng has seen a movie called An Era. This movie tells the story of an immigrant spaceship from Earth to Mars. Because of an accident, it lost its power source and could only drift in outer space. There are sufficient entertainment facilities and sufficient supplies on the ship, but after only 24 years, everyone on the ship died in despair. Most people chose to commit suicide because they were too desperate. Considering that the clones are a product that highly simulates humans, will the clones also get periodic pressure because they are in this underground colony? If so, Jiang Sheng cannot completely eliminate the pressure increase of the clones from the source of pressure. It seems that all he can do is try to relieve the pressure for the clones. Jiang Sheng had discovered before that the thinking logic of clones is mostly fixed, and their physical conditions can be checked with precise data. But in fact, clones behave like living humans in many places. For example, the sleep of clones will be affected by various reasons. So can I also use a more human-like method to try to decompress the clones? In the rental house, Jiang Sheng is using a laptop to search online for ways to decompress. There are many decompression methods found online, but most of them are not suitable for clones. First, click the left mouse button and select the compressed package. Click the right mouse button and click unzip file to decompress the file. Select the location where the file is decompressed, so that it is convenient to find the decompressed file directly after the file is decompressed. Jiang Sheng. Invite 3 or 5 good friends to go hiking together. Let each other's memories be filled with joy. Breathe the fragrance of nature. Let sweat take away the troubles in life, and only health is left. Jiang Sheng. Shopping, buying, and buying in the mall can make you forget the troubles in life. This method is very suitable for women. Jiang Sheng. Know how to be lazy. You don't have to concentrate on work. Why not relax your nervous nerves and focus on where you should use your main attention? Jiang Sheng. Exercise more. Exercise is the most effective way to release stress. You may be full of anger at work. Try to run home from the company after work, and you will find that you don't even have the motivation to be angry. Jiang Sheng. Games are a good way to relax. Appropriate games can make you happy and forget your troubles, but don't be too addicted. Jiang Sheng. Listen to music. Beautiful notes spread in the air, like the fragrance of flowers and the aroma of fine wine. Turn on the play button. The melody flows in the room. The sunlight shines on the floor through the thin curtains, and you will unconsciously hum the beautiful tune. Jiang Sheng. Seeing this, Jiang Sheng suddenly had an idea. Although the clones will not interact with themselves verbally, nor will they actively interact with the things brought by Jiang Sheng, visual and auditory interactions are inevitable. As long as you arrange it yourself, the clones will inevitably hear and see it. Chapter 34 Their musical preferences. When Jiang Sheng returned to the rental house, he had a lot of things in his hands. There were large decorative photo frames bought from the stationery store, and a high-power outdoor pull rod speaker. Jiang Sheng originally wanted to buy a wallpaper that could cover the entire base wall, but Jiang Sheng found that the pattern and color of the wallpaper were very monotonous and indifferent. If it was posted in a room with normal light, it could form a good aesthetic. But in a dimly lit cave, it was almost a blur of a single color, which was no different from not being posted. Home wallpaper itself is not used to be posted in caves, so it is very inconsistent with the nature of caves. Moreover, the stickiness of the wallpaper is still a bit difficult to stick on the sandstone walls of the base. It is difficult for Jiang Sheng to stick a large wallpaper completely on the wall of the base. Jiang Sheng simply bought some decorative photo frames, which can be nailed directly on the walls of the base. The bright colors are more likely to attract the attention of the clones. The speakers that Jiang Sheng bought are the same as those of the square dansantes. Once the speakers are turned on, the whole colony can be filled with music. Before entering Noah with these things, Jiang Sheng had to select some songs and save them in the USB flash drive. The USB flash drive given by the merchant currently only has one song, Good Luck Comes, which is used to demonstrate how to use the speakers. In terms of song selection, Jiang Sheng did not choose songs of a fixed style, but selected several representative songs of each style to see what style of music the clones like to listen to. As for Jiang Sheng himself, he did not have a particular favorite style of songs. As long as they were good songs, Jiang Sheng would put them in his collection, so the styles of songs in Jiang Sheng's own playlist were very diverse. After selecting the songs, Jiang Sheng brought the decorative photo frames and speakers into Noah. The clones and Noah were carrying out the daily maintenance work in the base in an orderly manner. Bian was watering the thorny flowers in the plantation, while Bray was responsible for transporting soil to the plantation. The cultivation of the smilax tree does not require water, but requires 10 kilograms of soil every day. Just like Jiang Sheng guessed, the planting of spathiphyllum does not consume soil from a physical level. When Bly adds soil to each spathiphyllum, he will first absorb some soil with the production gun, and then cover the new soil near the roots of the spathiphyllum. As for the soil, sucked away by the production gun, Jiang Sheng didn't know where Bly transported it, and Owen was enjoying running happily on the human generator at the base. How to tell if the clone is enjoying running? The expressions of the clones have obvious emotional feedback. Although they can't speak, and most of the time they are expressionless or dazed, they will have obvious facial expressions when doing some work. For example, when Bly went to clean the contaminated soil in the outdoor toilet in the morning, the expression on his face was almost exactly the same as when Jiang Sheng was a shit shoveler. In other words, Jiang Sheng can clearly know whether the clone likes or dislikes something, or doesn't care, through the clone's expression. First, Jiang Sheng used the tools on the study table to nail the purchased decorative photo frame into the cave at the base. Jiang Sheng originally bought a lot of tools to explore Noah's technology, but later found that all the buildings built by the replicants had no detachable structures, so he gave up. But now these tools come in handy. Decorative photo frames were nailed to the wall 1 meter apart, mainly in the range where the light of the printing cabin can illuminate. The night vision of replicants is much stronger than that of humans. Even in complete darkness, replicants can work as usual, but Jiang Sheng wanted to make these decorative photo frames more likely to attract the attention of replicants, so he concentrated them on the walls with light. All the decorative photo frames were nailed to the wall, and the work of Bly, Owen and Bian also came to an end. There were no other tasks to be completed in the base, so the three of them returned to the printing cabin to blow air. Good luck. I wish you good luck. Good luck brings joy and love. Good luck comes to us. Good luck comes. We will prosper and prosper with good luck. In the bass melodious singing sounded. It was Jiang Sheng who turned on the speakers and played the first song. The three clones heard the sound and turned to look in the direction of the sound, looking at a loss. Jiang Sheng's guess was correct. Although the clones would not actively interact with any of the items Jiang Sheng brought from Earth, they were still very sensitive to sensory interactions, especially sounds. In simple terms, the clones would normally hear the sound from the speakers and react accordingly, but they would never touch the speakers. Jiang Sheng slowly pushed the speakers in front of the three clones, and the three clones subconsciously took a step back. Was the sound a little too loud? In fact, the current sound was not loud for Jiang Sheng's ears, but the clones had been in a relatively quiet environment for a long time, and the production guns were almost silent when working, so the clones might not be used to the sound of the speakers. When the sound was turned down to the minimum, the three clones' expressions were obviously not so resistant, and the three of them began to slowly move forward. But their expressions were still a little confused, and there was no happy expression like when they were running on the human generator. Change to the next song. Pong, pong, beer pong, pong, beer pong, Pong, be a buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday singing we will rock you. This song is a classic among classics. The simple beat is very easy to resonate with people, and the expressions of the clones are much brighter than before. Even Owen and Bly and Owen are nodding rhythmically to the beat, as if they are more receptive to songs with simple beats. However, the happy expressions still did not appear. Afterwards, Jiang Sheng played many styles of music for the clones, including Western pop music, Chinese pop music, electronic music, DJ dance music, rap, etc. Jiang Sheng didn't know much about the specific music styles, so he could only roughly select some music of different styles. However, the clones did not react too strongly to most music styles, especially the pop music that young people generally like nowadays. Bly and Owen basically had no reaction, and only Bly and Owen would shake his body slightly. But in contrast, all the clones reacted to songs with simple and clear rhythms and very few lyrics. For example, when listening to electronic music and DJ dance music, the clones would stand still and twist their upper bodies like maggots, which looked very cute. But their expressions remained silent. Among these styles of music, the only one that could impress the clones in terms of expression was rap. When playing rap songs, the three clones all showed obvious disgust on their faces, especially in the parts with denser lyrics. Fortunately, the clones were set not to touch anything that Jiang Sheng brought, otherwise Jiang Sheng suspected that the clones would rush up and hit the objects that made such sounds. After trying so many styles of songs, Jiang Sheng also understood their musical preferences. It's decided to be you. Jiang Sheng switched songs continuously and then stopped, and the speakers made a melodious sound. Now, the three clones showed expressions of enjoyment. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Audition Art Therapy. Classical Music. The song playing in the speakers now is one of Franz Schubert's classics, Serenade, which is one of the classical music that Jiang Sheng must listen to when he is reading books and doing exercises. Seeing the extremely enjoyable expressions of the clones, Jiang Sheng knew that they liked this song from the bottom of their hearts. Unlike the simple body movements that they made to the beat of the music before, when listening to this song, the three clones all closed their eyes, with a faint smile on their faces, and their bodies swayed slightly with the elegant piano sound. Good luck, I wish you good luck brings joy, and love. Serenade ended, and the speakers automatically played the next song in a loop, and the clones opened their eyes, as if waking up from a dream. Jiang Sheng stopped the speakers, and the sound of the speakers stopped abruptly. Jiang Sheng didn't have too many fantasies about classical music, but he didn't expect that among all the song styles selected by Jiang Sheng, the clones liked classical music the most. And they liked it to the extent of being intoxicated by it. When listening to songs of other styles, the clones' reactions to the songs will be uneven, but when faced with this quiet classical music, the three clones' likes are surprisingly consistent. Is this because the clones themselves are set to like classical music? Or is there some magical power in classical music itself? If classical music has any magic compared to other music styles, Jiang Sheng only notes that the most recommended songs for fetuses to listen to during prenatal education are beautiful and soft classical music, which is said to be in line with the characteristics of fetal brain development. Jiang Sheng has not done any research in this area, so he doesn't know how it is in line with the specifics. But since there is such a saying, and many people agree, there must be a reason for it. Could it be that the brains of the clones are all at the stage of human fetuses? This speculation is not unreasonable. Although the clones can complete tasks efficiently, they are only supported by the said thinking logic and Jiang Sheng's command. They rarely have their own subjective judgment in their actions. Or there is no such opportunity. In this case, if the clones' brains have intelligence, then their brain intelligence level is currently at the fetal stage, which is not impossible. But the conclusion reached before is that clones have the possibility of evolution, so the intelligence of clones should not remain at the fetal stage forever. With this information, Jiang Sheng can easily choose music tracks for the clones. Back in the rental house, Jiang Sheng deleted all other songs and searched for many songs suitable for prenatal education on the internet. The Blue Danube, To Alice, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star Variations, Wedding in the Dream, etc. Not all prenatal education music is suitable for clones, because clones don't like the lyrics, so some children's songs and lullabies are not suitable for clones. Jiang Sheng didn't expect that he would desperately look for prenatal education music on the internet before becoming a father. After searching for about 40 or 50 classic prenatal education music, Jiang Sheng returned to Noah with the stereo. In Noah, the three clones all stood behind the base printing cabin because they had no new tasks and gathered next to the decorative album on the wall. They were actively looking at the decorative photo frames on the wall. The three clones walked back and forth along the wall, as if they were visiting an art exhibition, looking at the decorative photo frames on the wall. The pictures in these frames are all free with the purchase of the frames. Most of them are landscape photos, but there are also some art photos and miniature versions of historical paintings. Jiang Sheng turned on the speakers at the right time, and elegant classical music came from the speakers. The three clones heard the music, looked in the direction of the speakers, and then continued to leisurely watch the decorative paintings in the frames. Jiang Sheng mailed a total of 12 decorative frames. The three clones looked back and forth for several times, and finally all three of them stopped in front of a frame. Jiang Sheng leaned over to take a look, and saw that the decorative painting in the decorative frame was Starry Sky. Among the many decorative paintings, the three of them chose to stop in front of Starry Sky. It seems that they like Starry Sky very much. Starry Sky is one of Van Gogh's classic paintings. It vividly depicts the starry sky full of movement and change with exaggerated techniques. The three clones stared quietly at the blue torrent in the painting, as if they saw something worth thinking about in this blue torrent. An hour later, Jiang Sheng began to assign new tasks, and all the clones were busy again. Cycle 9 Colonial Report. Details of the clones. Calories produced. 0 cal consumption. 6,000 cal net value, minus 6,000 cal stress increase. 0% decrease. 3% net value, minus 3% disease status, no sick clones. Time details, working time. 55%. Walking time. 2% idle time. 9% base details, oxygen output. 2.5 kilograms, consumption. 1.5 kilograms net value. 1 kilogram overall evaluation, survival points plus 15 great. Jiang Sheng saw today's colony report and couldn't help but shout out excitedly, because yesterday's efforts were not in vain. The stress of the clones was reduced for the first time. In other words, the audiovisual art therapy that Jiang Sheng implemented for the clones yesterday worked. Audiovisual art therapy is a name that Jiang Sheng came up with himself, which means a method of using visual and auditory art to treat the excessive stress of clones. Although the stress of clones will increase due to various reasons, it can be eliminated through human intervention. This is Jiang Sheng's greatest discovery so far. However, the magnitude and efficiency of this reduction are very low. Each person only reduces stress by 1%, and 9% of the daily working time needs to be taken out for the clones to perform this therapy. It seems that this artificial decompression therapy is not perfect and needs further improvement. In addition, another conjecture of Jiang Sheng has also been verified. That is, the skill level of the clones will be upgraded over time. The day before yesterday, the skill levels of Bly and Owen were upgraded, and it was exactly 7 days since their birth. And today, Biansang's skill level can also be upgraded, and it is exactly 7 days since Biansang was born. After thinking for a while, Jiang Sheng decided to add 1 point to Biansang's construction skill. According to the principle of giving priority to initial skills, Biansang's suitable skills are construction and operation. Considering the current mainstream work type of Noah, Jiang Sheng thinks it is necessary to train a construction worker, so he added 1 point of construction to Biansang. Now Biansang's construction skill is 4 points, and the construction speed is 40% faster than that of the clones with 0 points. Taking another look at the survival points, after the settlement of survival points this morning, Jiang Sheng now has 104 survival points. This means that Jiang Sheng can print the next clone. Chapter 36 Members Meeting. Tang Keixin, the recruitment of new members for the 100 groups will end today. If time permits, please come to classroom 207 of the Comprehensive Activity Building of Huaqing University at 5:30 p.m. Please reply if you receive it. Jiang Sheng. 1. I originally thought that the Divination Club would not start its first club activity until this weekend at the earliest, but I didn't expect Tang Keixin to be so anxious. But Jiang Sheng didn't care. Today was an afternoon class, and the evening time was just right. After dinner, Jiang Sheng came to the Comprehensive Activity Building of Huaqing University as scheduled. When he walked to the door of classroom 207, Jiang Sheng looked at the time. It was still 10 minutes before 5:30. Although he came early, he should go into the classroom and wait. In the classroom, two girls were already sitting in the middle of the first row. One of the girls was Tang Keixin, who recruited Jiang Sheng to join the Divination Club last time, and Jiang Sheng didn't know the other girl. You are here so early? Come in and sit down first, classmate Jiang Sheng. Tang Keixin stood up slightly and greeted him. Jiang Sheng nodded and sat in the corner of the third row. It's not that Jiang Sheng has a gloomy personality and is not good at dealing with new people. It's just that, when he pushed the door open, he saw Tang Keixin chatting happily with the girl next to him. Jiang Sheng is still quite polite and doesn't want to interrupt the conversation between the girls. He looked up at the blackboard, where a few beautiful artistic words were written in colored chalk. Members Meeting of the Divination Society. From these few words, we can see the purpose of this call. It seems to be a meeting. After the recruitment of new members, most clubs will hold a short member meeting to let members get to know each other and establish some responsible persons to facilitate the development of club activities in the future. This is common sense. A common sense that Jiang Sheng didn't know. Apart from the content on the blackboard, there was no other specially decorated place in the classroom. The classroom was just an ordinary large classroom, no different from the large classroom of Jiang Sheng University. Looking around, Jiang Sheng's eyes unconsciously fell on the two girls in the front row. Tang Keixin still had the same hairstyle as when they first met, with two small braids hanging behind her head, and she was wearing college-style clothes. Recently, female idol groups with English letters and numbers and youthful vitality are very popular among young people. Jiang Sheng thinks that Tang Keixin is very suitable to join such idol groups. Coupled with the personality of a female academic bully from Huaqing University, I believe she will win a lot of fans when she debuts. If I were a scout, I would definitely do my best to recruit her to my company. In comparison, the girl next to Tang Keixin looks very ordinary. It's not that she is ugly, but it can be said that she looks like an ordinary person. Compared with Tang Keixin, she looks particularly ordinary. Although Jiang Sheng will not comment on women's looks, he can still distinguish the basic beauty and ugliness. Just as Jiang Sheng was watching the two girls in the front row whispering, the unknown girl next to Tang Keixin suddenly turned around and glanced at Jiang Sheng. The not so delicate eyebrows frowned slightly, giving Jiang Sheng a warning. Yes, Jiang Sheng thought that there was a warning in this look. This warning should be a warning to others not to touch their taboos. In addition, Jiang Sheng also saw a hint of disgust. I didn't do anything, but I was hated. Jiang Sheng felt a little puzzled. He shouldn't look that annoying. How come he was disliked just after entering the room for more than a minute? Forget it, just don't provoke them. Jiang Sheng didn't join this club to play friendly games with everyone in the club. Jiang Sheng joined this fortune-telling club with two clear purposes. In order not to see the warning eyes from that girl again, Jiang Sheng took out his mobile phone and read the news. The agreed time of 5:30 passed, and another 5 minutes passed before the door of the classroom was pushed open again. Three boys pushed the door open and rushed in. The three looked very familiar with each other. They talked and laughed with each other, and discussed the game enthusiastically. Old Wang, if we had held on for another 10 minutes, we would have won. We were a split push lineup, with Shen and Card pushing the side lanes, and the others pulling the middle lane. They couldn't stop us at all. The agreed time has come, so let's order quickly. I don't care, you'll treat us to dinner later. Okay, no problem. The three of them were talking and laughing, but when they sat down, the boy called Old Wang sat directly on the other side of Tang Kexin, looking so casual, while the other two boys consciously sat on the side of the first row near the door. Old Wang and Tang Kexin were talking naturally, and the girl on the other side of Tang Kexin still gave Old Wang a look. Although this look was hidden, even Old Wang, who was talking to Tang Kexin wholeheartedly, might not have noticed it, but Jiang Sheng, who had been observing Old Wang, accidentally discovered this look. Just like the look he gave Jiang Sheng just now, it was a warning look mixed with a hint of disgust. Seeing this look, Jiang Sheng felt relieved. It seemed that this girl hated more than just him. 5 minutes later, someone pushed the door open again. This time it was a girl. As soon as the girl came in, Jiang Sheng didn't have time to see her face clearly, and she bent down 90 degrees to bow to everyone in the classroom. "Sorry, I'm late." Her apology attracted the attention of everyone present, and everyone was shocked by her big move. "No, it's okay, come in." The whole classroom was silent for 2 seconds, and Tang Kexin stood up to smooth things over. The new girl then paced to the corner of the second row and sat down. After sitting down, the girl naturally got familiar with everyone present, looked around, and didn't linger for long. But when she saw Jiang Sheng behind her, she suddenly opened her mouth to say something. "Okay, now everyone in the divination club is here." The new girl didn't say anything, and was interrupted by Tang Kexin, who was standing in front. "First, let me introduce myself. My name is Tang Kexin. I'm a freshman in the public art department of Huaking University. I'm also the organizer of this club. My hobby is tarot divination. If you have any questions in the club, you can come to me directly. This time, we gathered everyone here, mainly to let everyone get to know each other, and then determine the candidate for the president. Everyone, please introduce yourselves first." The boy, who was called Old Wang by his companions, stood up first and said, "My name is Wang Haiyang, majoring in energy and power engineering at Huaking University. I'm currently a freshman. My hobbies are reading and researching. Because I like mysticism, I'm very interested in tarot culture." The two boys who came in with Wang Haiyang had the same major and grade as Wang Haiyang. The slightly fatter one was called Ma Junhong and the slightly thinner one was called Hu Lei. Judging from the way the three of them entered the door, they were in the same dormitory. The girl who kept throwing warning eyes at the boys around her was called Zhang Yu. She was in the same major and grade as Tang Kexin. It seemed that the two were also roommates. Jiang Sheng, a junior majoring in environmental science at Jiangsheng University. Jiang Sheng's introduction was the simplest, but it also surprised most people, because Jiang Sheng was from Jiangsheng University. Although the clubs of C9 are interconnected, there are still a few people who join clubs from other schools. It was the last girl's turn to introduce herself. After taking 2 deep breaths, the girl finally stood up and introduced herself. "My name is Yeo Na. I major in biological science at Huaking University, and I'm currently a freshman. Please give me your advice." As she said this, she bowed deeply to everyone present. Chapter 37 I Accept Your Challenge. Yeo Na. Jiang Sheng was shocked, because this name was not unfamiliar to him. A few days ago, when he was doing NOAA sample testing in the comprehensive laboratory building of Huaking University, he met a girl who had exaggerated full body protective measures. She called herself Yeo Na. Is it that Yeo Na? Although the surname is not common, the name Yeo Na should not be uncommon among girls with the surname Yeo, and it is possible that they have the same name. But when Yeo Na looked back at him just now, her expression was obviously a little shocked. If it was not because of his handsome appearance that she was attracted by him, then it could only be that she had seen him before. Although Jiang Sheng had seen Yeo Na before, and they had a brief chat in the laboratory, Yeo Na's protective measures were very strict at that time, and they were completely worn in accordance with the highest level of biological protection requirements. In addition, Yeo Na had a mask on her face at that time, and her voice was a little changed, so the voice could not be completely judged. Should it be the same person? Or maybe not? Jiang Sheng stared at Yeo Na's back for a few seconds, and it became more and more difficult to distinguish. The white short-sleeved shirt and loose denim pants highlight Yeo Na's figure to the fullest, which makes it difficult for Jiang Sheng to associate her with the extremely heavy Yeo Na in the laboratory. In addition, Jiang Sheng found one more thing, that is, white. really white. Yeona's skin is not the kind of sickly pale, but a baby white that seems to have not been polished by time. To put it another way, that is not so easy to be misunderstood. Yeona's skin is very good, so good that any girl will be envious. But at the same time, Jiang Sheng also found a suspicious point. That is, this Yeona is wearing a white silk glove on her hand. Not only does she wear gloves in summer, but she has no intention of taking them off after entering the classroom. If possible, Jiang Sheng really wants to pat her on the shoulder and ask, have we met before? But considering that this is a cliched opening line for chatting up, in order to avoid misunderstandings, Jiang Sheng thinks it's better to forget it. Everyone has been introduced. From now on, you will be members of the Divination Club. I hope everyone can get along well and make progress together. Next, we will elect the president of the Divination Club. As soon as Tang Keixin finished speaking, Wang Haiyang suddenly stood up and walked to the side of the podium and continued speaking. Before running for the president, I would like to introduce the situation of the Divination Club to everyone. The Divination Club is a new club established in this year's 100 group recruitment. When applying for registration, it was actually called the Tarot Card Culture Enthusiasts Association. It was originally initiated by Tang Keixin, and then Tang Keixin, me, Ma Junhong, Hu Lei, and Zhang Yu applied together. According to the C9 University Alliance Club Activity Guidelines, any new club needs to elect a president by voting after its establishment. But considering that our club is a small club, there are only 7 people in total, and the number of original organizers of the club accounts for the vast majority, the result of the vote will be more obvious. At this point, Wang Haiyang paused and looked at Tang Keixin beside him, and Tang Keixin shyly lowered her head, as if she had taken something that did not belong to her. So I propose that the election method for the president be changed from voting to divination. As he spoke, Wang Haiyang looked directly at Jiang Sheng, passing everyone. Do you think it's okay, Jiang Sheng? Asking me? Jiang Sheng was confused by this sudden question, as if he was going to run for president. Jiang Sheng had never wanted to be the president of the Divination Club from the beginning. Although he heard that the club president had benefits such as extra credits, Jiang Sheng only joined the club to get the credits that would allow him to graduate normally. As for becoming the club president, it sounded like a hassle. He also had Noah's affairs to deal with, so how could he have extra time to manage the club? Thinking of this, Jiang Sheng hurriedly waved his hand and said, I personally have no intention of running for president. If you already have a suitable candidate in mind, just say it directly. As soon as Jiang Sheng's words came out, he was immediately rejected by Wang Haiyang. No, whether you are a student of Huaqing University or not, at least you can get a fair chance to run for president in the clubs of Huaqing University. When Wang Haiyang said this, Jiang Sheng finally understood why Wang Haiyang was so persistent in choosing a president, and he emphasized that he should listen to him. The clubs of the C9 University Alliance have been communicating with each other for more than 1 or 2 years, but it is still not common for Jiang Sheng to participate in clubs of other schools. On the one hand, the types of university clubs are similar, and they can cover the interests and hobbies of most people. It is more convenient to join the clubs of your own school in terms of geographical conditions and so on. On the other hand, there is the unspoken rule of university clubs to run for president. Clubs communicate with each other, and all club activities are the same as those of clubs in the school, with the focus on cultural exchanges between schools. But in fact, they cannot be exactly the same, because it is difficult for students from other schools to become presidents in clubs. Voting for the president is the club activity principle jointly set by C9, but it is still difficult to accept from the heart for students of the school to choose a student from another school to be the president. After all, they are not the protagonists in anime. People in real life do not have so many shining points of humanity that most people are convinced, and students can choose a student from another school as the president of the club regardless of the difference in school. In fact, there is nothing to be disgusted with, it is just human nature. In a way, being a student of this school is also one of the advantages in the election for the president. So in the election for the president, students from other schools don't even have to think about it, they have no chance at all. There is actually no need to talk about the unspoken rules of the clubs between C9, but Wang Haiyang directly said this, and he also targeted the only student from another school, Jiang Sheng. What a rigid person. Obviously, it is enough to ignore Jiang Sheng's thoughts and directly announce who the president is. Anyway, new clubs do this. The organizer is the president, and voting is just a formality. As a result, he insisted on going to the trouble of electing the president fairly. It may also be that he was afraid that Jiang Sheng would say after returning that the new club of Hua King University did not consider the ideas of students from other schools at all in the election for the president. But Jiang Sheng is definitely not so petty. After all, Jiang Sheng has never included becoming the president in his action goal. I heard that you like the Book of Changes very much, so using divination to run for president is the most in line with the style of the divination club. But I don't want to be the president at all, Jiang Sheng explained. In order to be fair, the two of us will choose an outsider in the divination club to do the divination. Wang Haiyang ignored Jiang Sheng's explanation and continued. Tang Keixin, Zhang Yu, Ma Junhong, and Hu Lei and I knew each other before. It would definitely be unfair to you to choose them as the divination objects. So it can only be you, classmate Yeo Na. Hearing this, Jiang Sheng raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, okay then I accept your challenge. Chapter 38 Success. Divination for me? Yeo Na pointed at herself in surprise. Yes, the two of us will divine your past, and then write the results on paper. Whoever you agree with more will win. Of course, we won't tell you who wrote the two divination results in advance, so it's completely fair. Wang Haiyang seemed to know what would happen now in advance. The rules of the game were blurted out, thinking that there would be no mistakes. The so-called divination is not that magical. In essence, it is a combination of reasoning and rhetoric. The first is reasoning, through some small actions of the divination object to infer the living habits, personality, etc. of the divination object. Then, by judging these small living habits, we can infer the possible consequences that may occur next. For example, alcoholics are likely to have some changes in their lives in the future, and drinking will cause trouble sooner or later. Then, combined with some rhetoric, this kind of thing is made more vague, so that the divination object can form a psychological hint. Generally, people who actively seek divination are those who are confused about the future and hope to get guidance from others. As long as some simple reasoning and reasonable words form psychological hints, such people who are already confused can believe that any bad things that happen in the future are the bad things predicted by the fortune teller, even if it is just a small thing like tripping when going out. But ask yourself, whose life will be smooth sailing? Therefore, the two most important things for a professional fortune teller are good eyesight and good words. As for using tarot cards or Book of Changes, they are all a means of mystification for fortune telling. If you believe it, it will happen, and if you don't believe it, it will not happen. But for fortune tellers, no matter what they see from tarot cards or palmistry, they always have to say the same set of words, which is almost the same. Of course, with the passage of time, the current fortune telling has long changed. Divination has become a simple wording, or a means for the elderly to sell cheap goods such as Buddhist beads and cigarettes at the gate of the temple, or a good word for people who pretend to know to please their superiors. Most people in the classroom know all this. So from the beginning, this club was not established for divination, and the announcement of the divination club was just to arouse the curiosity of other students to join the club. Unfortunately, the effect does not seem to be very good. Including the initial 5 people, there are only 7 members in total. Back to the present, Wang Haiyang also knows the tricks of divination, so he did not use divination of the future as the content of the competition. Because future events cannot be predicted at all, they can only be speculated, and no one knows whether they will happen. But divination of past events requires reasoning to see who can tell Yeona's past more accurately, and the result is also easy to judge. No one present knows their past better than the person himself. But if you think that classmate Yeona and I knew each other before, I can't help it. But what I want to say is that classmate Yeona and I did not know each other before. No. Jiang Sheng stretched out a finger and shook it slightly, smiling. I believe you and classmate Yeona don't know each other. From Yeona's reaction, when she was designated as the object of divination, Jiang Sheng knew that the two of them had definitely not discussed this matter in advance. Besides, isn't this competition just for the election of the president? If they have to resort to such despicable means for the president, they might as well just announce who the president is. Jiang Sheng probably won't refute it anyway, and it's useless to refute it. Well, let's play rock paper scissors to decide who goes first. As he said that, Wang Haiyang was about to stretch out his hand to play rock paper scissors with Jiang Sheng, but Jiang Sheng hurriedly stopped him. Wait, isn't it Tang Keixin who's going to compete with me? From everyone's expressions, it was obvious that they were going to elect Tang Keixin as the president. Since it was an election for the president, it should be Jiang Sheng versus Tang Keixin. Wang Haiyang looked back at Tang Keixin and said apologetically, her divination is a bit casual, so I'm going to compete on her behalf. Jiang Sheng nodded. It didn't matter who came. Anyway, his goal was not to become the president. The two of them played rock paper scissors to decide who went first. Wang Haiyang divined first, and Jiang Sheng divined later. Then the two of them established a divination rule. During divination, the diviner and the object of divination are alone in a classroom, and everyone else goes out. However, neither of them can talk during divination, to prevent anyone from asking Yeona about the past, or asking Yeona questions. The entire divination process must be recorded with a mobile phone. There should be no more stringent divination than this, where neither party can talk. Witnessed by everyone, Wang Haiyang turned on the recording function on his mobile phone, and then clicked to start recording. Everyone else walked out of the classroom, leaving only Wang Haiyang and Yeona in the classroom. After waiting outside for about 5 minutes, Wang Haiyang walked out alone. It's your turn. Wang Haiyang took a piece of notebook paper from Tang Keixin. In order to prevent Yeona from knowing the handwriting of the two people, the divination results had to be written outside the classroom. So this game not only tests reasoning ability, but also memory ability. Jiang Sheng walked into the classroom, sat next to Yeona, and then turned on the recording function of his mobile phone. To be honest, Wang Haiyang's thinking about this divination competition is really thoughtful. All the rules of the competition were proposed by him, so he had the possibility to record the zero dialogue recording in advance. In order to avoid suspicion, he needed to turn on the recording function on the spot in the presence of everyone and start recording. But Jiang Sheng didn't know the rules and couldn't prepare the recording in advance. He could only turn on the recording now and record a recording equivalent to the length of the divination. Otherwise, without the recording as evidence, it would be unknown whether Jiang Sheng took the opportunity to ask questions. Of course, this is based on the possibility that Yeona is a good person who will help one of them cheat and will not report it. Since the seats in the large classroom are not convenient for two people to sit face to face at the front and back tables, Jiang Sheng and Yeona can only sit at the same table, and then both of them turn sideways to do divination. This sitting posture makes the two look like a couple. In the 3 years of college, Jiang Sheng has not sat in the university classroom with any girl in this sitting posture. It's not that Jiang Sheng can't find a partner. With Jiang Sheng's capital, it's not too difficult to find a partner, but Jiang Sheng is not so keen on finding a partner of the opposite sex. In short, there is not much interest, so he won't look for one. But sitting here now, Jiang Sheng seemed to regret it again. Looking at Yeona's slightly flushed cheeks, Jiang Sheng swallowed his saliva and then said, can you take off the gloves? Although the rules prohibit talking, that is to prevent flattery, and ordinary conversation is still possible. After hearing Jiang Sheng's request, Yeona's face was obviously a little panicked, but she did not refuse, but she hesitated to take off her gloves. Jiang Sheng hurriedly explained, don't get me wrong, I'm studying the Book of Changes, and palm reading is the basic condition for my divination. Yeona nodded to show her understanding, and then continued to take off the gloves on her left hand. Men's left and women's right. For girls, you have to look at the right hand. Although it doesn't matter to Jiang Sheng which hand, but if he plays the whole show and understands the character of the Book of Changes, he can stand up. Yeona had no choice but to put on the left hand glove again, slowly pull down the left hand glove, and then stretch out her slender fingers. When Jiang Sheng held Yeona's hand, Jiang Sheng shouted in his heart, got it. Chapter 39 Take a rest. This inner cry contains two meanings. One is the common meaning of success, which is equivalent to being done, succeeding, and the expected thing is successful at a certain moment. The other is the literal translation of success. Jiang Sheng finally touched Yeona's hand. Although it was only a short-term possession, and he didn't know if it was the genetic blueprint he wanted, at least he could stably obtain Yeona's genetic blue group. Yeona's hand was as soft as jade. Although he just gently placed her hand on his palm, Jiang Sheng could also feel the lightness and slenderness of this hand. The only flaw was that there was a scar about the size of an oral liquid bottle cap behind Yeona's palm. The scar was not a physical knife wound, but a scar similar to a flame burn. Seeing Jiang Sheng observing her scar, Yeona turned her head away embarrassedly, looking at Yeona's reaction, and the reason why Yeona wanted to stretch out her left hand at the beginning, and wearing gloves in summer should be, to cover this scar. A new genetic blueprint has been detected, and is being added to the gene library. Addition completed. After a few seconds of contact between Jiang Sheng and Yeona's palms, Jiang Sheng finally obtained Yeona's genetic blueprint as he wished. Resume name, Yeona age. 7132 cycles gender, female traits, scientific research enthusiast, science +7, fragile, unable to engage in excavation work, afraid of cooking, unable to engage in cooking work, stress response, overeating joy response, self-dressing, although Yeona seldom dresses up. It is not that she does not yearn for beautiful clothes. If her wardrobe is full of fashionable clothes, she will be very happy. Skill strength 0. Carrying and fighting ability, excavation. 0. The ability to mine resources, construction. 0. The ability to build, operation. 0. The ability to operate machinery, medical. 0. The ability to provide medical treatment, cooking. 0. The ability to make food, science. 7. The ability to conduct scientific and technological research, creation. 0. The ability to create art, farming. 0. The ability to farm, physical indicators life. 9700th stress. 24% bladder. 17% respiration, normal physical strength. 64% calories. 1745 cal body temperature. 36.5. After obtaining Yeona's gene blue group, Jiang Sheng determined that this Yeona was the Yeona he met in the laboratory before. Because this Yeona's science was as high as a terrifying 7. Jiang Sheng had never met a gene blueprint with such a high single skill attribute, and there was also a scientific research enthusiast in the tray. Who else could it be, except the Yeona who appeared in the laboratory early before? But in contrast to high science, Yeona is currently the only one who cannot do two jobs directly. Can't cook, and can't dig. Cooking is actually okay, but not being able to dig is a very large labor loss for the colony below the surface. Okay. Jiang Sheng's thoughts were pulled back by Yeona's voice, and he quickly let go of Yeona's hand. Okay. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Sheng regretted it. When he was learning the book of changes to read people's palms, how could he finish reading in just a short time? But Yeona had already retracted her hand and put on her gloves. If she told others that she hadn't finished reading, it seemed easier to be misunderstood. Jiang Sheng had no choice but to finish his divination and call everyone back to the classroom. It's done so quickly. Everyone was a little surprised at Jiang Sheng's quick decision. Tang Keixen handed over a piece of notebook paper that was the same as Wang Haiyang's, and asked Jiang Sheng to write down the content of his divination on it, and then asked Yeona to leave the classroom, to prevent Yeona from judging which one was written by whom, based on the order in which the divination information was completed. Now it's time to compete in memory. To win this game, the goal is to make the divination information you write more recognized by Yeona herself. To do this, you need to write as much as possible about what you see. In mystery novels, even Sherlock Holmes' reasoning ability to identify most of a person's personality and life situation at a glance is not always accurate, and this is even more so in reality. Therefore, the key to making people recognize the divination information is not to make all the content hit the person's past, but to write as much information as possible to make your information more likely to hit other people's past. In the past, some magazines and reading materials always had some fortune-telling games such as horoscopes and book pages. Through simple games, readers can predict the past of readers, and it seems to be very accurate. In fact, this principle is used. Summarize the personality characteristics of a certain type of people as comprehensively as possible. As long as most of the description hits the reader himself, the reader will think that this divination is very accurate. In fact, these divinations are very general, and there are more good words, so the hit rate is very good. For example, you will not give up easily when encountering things, like to stick to yourself, etc. Most people are willing to think well of themselves. When hearing these words, readers will subconsciously think of the times when they meet these characteristics, and forget the times when they do not meet these characteristics, and then think that the content of the divination is very accurate. And what Wang Heiang is doing now is almost the same. Of course, Wang Heiang was alone with Yeona for 5 minutes after all, and knew Yeona's basic information, and also saw some characteristics of Yeona, and then combined with the corresponding words and long-winded personality theory, to improve his hit rate. It's just that writing these things takes a while, and requires a very good memory. But Jiang Sheng is different. According to previous experience, the description of Bly Sheng's genetic blueprint is almost exactly Bly Sheng himself, so Yeona's genetic blueprint should be the same. So Jiang Sheng directly opened the genetic blueprint in his mind, and wrote according to the feedback on the blueprint. Name Yeona, age 20 years old, born in January, gender female, hobby scientific research, never engaged in physical labor, can't cook at all. When under great pressure, she will relieve stress by overeating. When she is happy, she likes to dress herself up at home. She hopes that the wardrobe at home will be filled with beautiful clothes, but she will not wear these clothes at ordinary times. Jiang Sheng's divination information is basically written according to Yeona's resume. Of course, it still needs to be expressed in conjunction with certain reasoning and human language, and it can't be too exaggerated, such as specific birthdays, physical indicators, etc., which must not be written directly. But when he saw the life value in the physical indicators, Jiang Sheng was a little confused. Why is Yeona's life value 97/100ths? The life value in the physical index is always very accurate. If the life value is reduced, it must be that the accumulated damage is enough to threaten life. Once the life value reaches 0, the person will inevitably die. So although Yeona only lost 3 life points, it is still worth noting. But looking at her, she doesn't seem to care too much about this matter, and even comes to participate in club activities normally. In other words, the damage Yeona suffered should be a kind of damage that is considered as damage, but not a big deal. After thinking for a while, Jiang Sheng wrote a sentence at the end of the divination information. Suggestion: pay more attention to rest recently, and drink some brown sugar water. Chapter 40 Yeona's Little Secret. After Jiang Sheng and Wang Heiang's divination results were mixed up, they were handed over to Yeona, who read them, and decided which divination result was more accurate. First, the first divination result. The first half was a guess about Yeona's past, such as she rarely saw outsiders, and it was not her subjective will to join the club this time. These were right. Yeona did not join the divination club out of her subjective will, but was persuaded by her family. Her family wanted Yeona to go out more and not stay in the laboratory all the time. As for why she chose the divination club, it was just because she felt that other clubs were too ordinary, but divination and tarot cards were relatively unknown to Yeona, who had always advocated science. Out of curiosity about the unknown, she chose the divination club. Because she stayed in the laboratory most of the time, she rarely saw outsiders, and almost everyone she knew was met in the laboratory, and they talked about experiments. But Yeona didn't agree with the following words, because some of the following words are based on Yeona's lonely and closed personality. Although they are relatively polite, Yeona disagrees with some of them. For example, it is the first time for Yeona to wear such bold style of clothes. It should be selected by others for Yeona, so she is a little uncomfortable. But there are also some correct points, such as Yeona has been very good at studying since she was a child, which may be influenced by her family environment. This sentence is alright. Yeona's mother is a professor at King University and her father works at Uaksha Academy of Sciences. Yeona has been greatly influenced by her parents since she was a child. But in fact, part of this sentence is opportunistic. King University is one of the top universities in China. Students who can enter this school are all top students, especially Yeona's major in biological sciences. This kind of pure scientific research major requires higher scores. Such people are likely to have been good at studying since childhood. But under the influence of the family, it is guessed. If you guess right, you will make a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you guess wrong. Anyway, as long as most of it hits the heart of the divination object, it's fine. In the end, Yeona put down the first divination result and silently gave it a score in her heart 60 points. Passing score. In fact, the result of this divination is more than 60% correct, but Yeona doesn't like the report that attributes her to a slightly withdrawn person. Yeona herself also longs to be close to people and play with friends, but she has never had the chance. Or it can be said to be an opportunity. The next divination report. When she saw the next divination report, Yeona's face became more and more surprised. Because this divination report lists all her personal information like data. It is not difficult to guess that Yeona is 20 years old, because Yeona introduced herself as a freshman before, but it actually says that she was born in January. The key is that she was really born in January. It is normal that she has never engaged in physical labor. She is a girl with thin arms and legs and white skin. This can be seen at a glance. But how can you tell that she can't cook at all? It is said here very decisively that she can't cook at all, which means that she can't even cook the most basic meals. Normal college students can still fry eggs and make rice. After all, college students are generally adults. But Yeona is really an outlier among college students, the kind of outlier who can't cook at all. In addition to using boiling water to soak instant noodles, Yeona really can't cook any other food, not even boil instant noodles with water. Because Yeona can neither use a gas stove nor an induction cooker. And what will she do when she is under great pressure? And what will she do when she is happy? These are completely true. When she is under great pressure, Yeona's appetite will be stronger. I don't know why. But this method of relieving stress is also applicable to most people, especially girls. Because girls pursue physical beauty, they usually suppress their appetite. Suppressing appetite itself is a thing that increases pressure. When they have pressure in other aspects, they will release this part of their pressure and relieve the pressure from other aspects by eating a lot. So this guess is right, and it is understandable. But Yeona really doesn't understand why there is a guess about what she will do when she is happy. Most girls have a princess dream when they were young, hoping that their wardrobes will be filled with beautiful clothes, and Yeona is no exception. But as she grows older, Yeona will not show her clothes in front of outsiders because of her study's awesome changes. But Yeona still insists on online shopping. She buys clothes she likes online and puts them in her closet. When she is in a good mood, she changes them at home. This should be Yeona's second biggest hobby besides research. Although there are not many opportunities to wear them. So the previous divination result that said Yeona's clothes were selected by others was completely wrong. Yeona's clothes were indeed selected by herself, but she has never worn them. This time, in order to participate in the club and make friends outside the laboratory, she deliberately wore clothes from her closet. Because of this, she was late. This is her most private little secret. Except for her parents, no one else should know. No one would have thought that she would have her own big closet at home while wearing heavy protective clothing in the laboratory. But how did this divination know? And the last sentence made Yeona blush with shame. Pay attention to rest and drink some brown sugar water. What kind of instructions is this? Isn't this clearly saying that relatives from her mother's family have visited recently? The key is that it is indeed the case. As a woman, there is no way to have such troubles, but I have tried my best to behave normally. Can divination even see this thing? This divination result is not too long, and it ends here. It has more than half the words of the previous divination. but surprisingly, all the contents are correct. The accuracy rate is as high as 100%. Moreover, there are no ambiguous words like the previous divination result. These are all decisive in black and white. Yeona even feels that she has no secrets in front of the writer of this divination result. Now that both divination results have been read, Yeona has some guesses in her heart. Guess who wrote that divination result? Unfortunately, the rules of this competition are very strict, and it is impossible to judge who wrote which divination result from some details. It can only be judged by intuition. Unfortunately, Yeona has never believed in intuition. Intuition is often full of irrationality, and extreme scientists reject any irrationality. Student Yeona, which divination do you think is more accurate? Tankakesen asked on the side. Looking at the two divinations left and right, Yeona blushed and handed one of them to Tankakesen. This. Chapter 41. Profound and extensive. Tankakesen took the paper with the divination result, and took a quick look at it. She immediately knew who wrote it. Jiang Sheng's. Everyone looked at Jiang Sheng in disbelief, because in their eyes, it was incredible to be better than Wang Haiyang in divination. Because Wang Haiyang's divination is not pure divination, but scientific divination with rhetoric and reasoning after in-depth research. This is different from divination that relies solely on tarot cards or I Ching. Scientific divination will improve the hit rate of divination from various angles, rather than believing in the theory of fate that divination emphasizes. In this regard, both Wang Haiyang himself and the people around him who are familiar with Wang Haiyang are quite confident that Wang Haiyang will not lose. At least he will not lose to someone who believes in I Ching. But the fact is that Wang Haiyang's divination results did not get the approval of Yeona herself compared to Jiang Sheng's divination results. At this time, Wang Haiyang was also full of surprise, and he was thinking about why. Wang Haiyang himself knew that his divination results would definitely not be 100% accurate, but Wang Haiyang was confident that he could guess most of them. With some basic rhetoric, Wang Haiyang felt that his hit rate could reach over 70%. For a divination result, this is already very good. Since Yeona recognized Jiang Sheng's divination result more, it means that Jiang Sheng's divination hit rate must be over 70%. And Yeona did not hesitate too much when choosing which divination result to choose, and she chose it almost after reading both. This shows that the hit rate difference between the two divination results is obvious, or Jiang Sheng's divination result hit the little secret in Yeona's heart, so Yeona chose the winning divination result so directly. But no matter what, Jiang Sheng has already won. If you accept the bet, you will be the president of the divination club from now on. Hearing Wang Haiyang's words, Jiang Sheng hurriedly replied, Stop. I never wanted to be the president of the divination club. Wang Haiyang shook his head. No, since you won the competition, you should be the president of the divination club, because the purpose of this competition is to run for the president. Jiang Sheng didn't expect Wang Haiyang's mind to be so rigid that he couldn't do without the president. Jiang Sheng didn't want to be the president of the divination club from the beginning, because he wanted to be the president of the divination club. It was because only by competing with Wang Haiyang could he have the opportunity to contact Yeona and obtain a blue gene group, which was what Jiang Sheng valued most. As for who would be the president of the divination club, Jiang Sheng didn't care at all, and he had no idea about the position of president. If he became the president of the club, there would definitely be a lot of troubles, and he would not have time to take care of these troubles in the club. So the position of the club president is a burden to Jiang Sheng, and Jiang Sheng can never accept it. Actually, I should be considered cheating in this competition. Cheating? Everyone raised doubtful voices. Did you trick Yeona into saying something? Wang Haiyang asked. Although there was a rule of using mobile phones to record before, in fact, no one actually listened to the divination recording of the two people. It was just a psychological shackle to prevent someone from trying to trick her into saying something. That's not the case. It's just that I have met Yeona before, so I should be considered to know her. Jiang Sheng explained. Before Wang Haiyang continued to ask, Tankakesen asked first, you know each other, one is from Beijing University and the other is from Huazhang University, how can you know each other? I came here to borrow the laboratory before, and we met at that time. Everyone's eyes changed when they looked at Jiang Sheng and Yeona. Since the two knew each other before, they pretended not to know each other when they first came in. They were not an underground couple or something like that. Feeling the malicious eyes of everyone, Yeona turned her head away. In fact, they really misunderstood. Yeona couldn't even tell whether it was a man or a woman in the laboratory without talking. Even if they had met before, it was normal for Jiang Sheng not to recognize her. So you should find another suitable candidate for the president of the divination club. Okay. Wang Haiyang also saw that Jiang Sheng really didn't want to be the president. He didn't mean to be modest at all, otherwise he wouldn't have told about his previous acquaintance with Yeona. In the end, Tang Keixin was determined to be the president of the divination club. After deciding on the president, Tang Keixin talked about the plan for the next club activity and then disbanded. After all, it was getting late and some of them had evening classes to attend. Repressing his inner excitement, Jiang Sheng walked down the stairs quickly. If he hadn't created an image of a calm and steady normal person in front of the club members, Jiang Sheng would have jumped up with excitement. Now Jiang Sheng's mind was full of thoughts about getting back to the rental house as soon as possible. But when he walked through the tree-lined avenue and was about to turn out of the gate of King University, a voice called him. Looking back, it was Yeona. Is there something wrong? Jiang Sheng didn't expect that he would be stopped, even after walking so far. What's on this? How did you know? Yeona took out the notebook paper where Jiang Sheng had written the divination results. Well, of course it was divined. Impossible. If it was divined, how could it know that? Yeona shook her head desperately, as if a girl was angry and didn't want to listen to her boyfriend's explanation. No, which one? That one. Which one is that? That one is the one in the last sentence above. After 2 rounds of conversation, Jiang Sheng knew what Yeona was talking about. In fact, Jiang Sheng wrote almost completely according to the contents of the genetic blueprint. He didn't want to win the game, but wanted to see how much the description in the genetic blueprint differed from the person. Now it seems that Bly and Owen's time was not a coincidence. The description in the genetic blueprint does accurately describe the person. From work skills, personality traits, personal preferences to insignificant physical data, they are all completely in accordance with the person. Unexpectedly, Jiang Sheng just wanted to guess the last sentence, but he actually guessed it right. Now the person asked, what should I say? But before Yeona could think of a way to fool her, Yeona had already spoken. Have you been following me since that laboratory? Puff. Jiang Sheng never expected that Yeona would have such an idea. Hey, I'm just an ordinary college student, not a ninja or a detective. How could I possibly follow you and investigate you? And now it seems that I'm not following you, but you're following me. Yeah, Yeona nodded. That makes sense. So easy to fool. Then how do you explain the content here? Yeona asked, holding up the divination result. Jiang Sheng pretended to be another worldly expert, rubbed his empty chin, and said, this is a testament to the breadth and depth of Chinese culture. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 New Researcher. The Book of Changes? Of course, you don't really think I'm a god, do you? Can the Book of Changes be so accurate? Well, not all of it is accurate. There are also places where we need to guess. At least now we can blame the Book of Changes. Yeona doesn't understand the Book of Changes anyway, so as long as she doesn't say anything too absolute, it doesn't matter what she says. Oh. Yeona seemed to accept Jiang Sheng's statement. After all, although Jiang Sheng's divinations were all correct, there were actually very few meaningful contents. There were many places that even Yeona's classmates in the laboratory knew. Then can I leave? Jiang Sheng asked, as if he was already Yeona's captive at this time. Well, I'm sorry to have delayed you. Yeona's face was slightly apologetic. After all, she was here to question him. Then goodbye. Goodbye. After leaving King University, Jiang Sheng immediately rushed back to his rental house and then entered Noah. Just now when he was on the road, Jiang Sheng's mind was full of new genetic blueprints, and he even wanted to walk through a door at random and enter Noah directly. Of course, Jiang Sheng restrained such thoughts. Jiang Sheng did not want to be exposed to the public when he came out of Noah. Now in front of the printing cabin, Jiang Sheng can finally print out the genetic blueprint he just got. At present, Jiang Sheng has 104 survival points, which is just enough to print a clone. As for which clone to print, it is naturally the genetic blueprint of Yeonap that he just got. In fact, the directional printing of the genetic blueprint disappears once. That is, the genetic blueprint of the same person can only print one clone. But random printing will not have such a problem. There is no limit to the number of prints. With a thought, the printing cabin began to print. In the light curtain, a slender body slowly condensed into shape, and finally the light curtain dissipated, and the clone in it slowly fell to the ground. Yeonap. Although he had seen the degree of similarity between the clones printed by the printing cabin and the real person before, Jiang Sheng couldn't help but exclaimed when he saw it again. It was still exactly the same Yeonap, with fair skin, tall figure, and long black hair. The only difference was the unique rustic clothes of the clones, the production gun and 4 fingers. But it must be said that, even if Yeonap wore a coarse sweater and black trousers made by a clone, she still looked quite unique. Jiang Sheng shook his head, shook off those thoughts, and quickly arranged the tasks. Yeonap's attribute is that she cannot cook or dig, but her scientific attribute is as high as 7 points. Her job is naturally to research. When the research station was idle in the past few days, Jiang Sheng had already thought about what the next scientific research would be. At present, the colony needs electricity the most. Electricity is an important energy source for the colony to maintain the operation of production buildings, and the current source of electricity for the colony is human-powered generators. Although human-powered generators can also guarantee the supply of various electrical equipment in the colony, the premise is that not all electrical appliances can start working at the same time. Through the power view, Jiang Sheng can see all the electrical appliances connected to the human-powered generator, including a 120-watt oxygen diffuser, a 240-watt food compressor, and a 60-watt research station. The power of these 3 electrical appliances is 420 watts. The power of the human-powered generator is 400 watts. That is, the 3 electrical appliances cannot work at the same time. When the electrical appliances in the colony exceed the power of the generator, there will be a specific power compensation mechanism. That is, it will automatically select the building with higher priority to supply power, and the building with lower priority will complete its task after the building with higher priority completes its task. At this time, Jiang Sheng will see yellow wires in the power view. Yellow lines mean that the power supply in the colony is insufficient. These days, the replicants will see yellow lines when they occasionally use the food compressor. The power problem is not just this. Another important problem is the low power generation efficiency of the human generator. It was okay before when the number of replicants was small and the colony was not expanding, but it is different now. Now there are 4 replicants, which means that the use time of the food compressor will be longer than before. At the same time, the expansion of the colony requires oxygen diffusers to produce oxygen and pour it into the newly excavated space. In addition, there are now replicants specializing in research, and the research station will remain open for a long time. In this case, the power generation efficiency of the human generator is far from enough. This is no longer a problem that can be solved by adding another human generator, because adding another human generator can only solve the power problem. When generating electricity, 2 replicants are still needed to run the wheel, which wastes too much labor. So now Jiang Sheng wants to start researching power technology. The first level of research in power technology is called power regulation. There are 3 buildings that can be unlocked in this level of research. Giant battery stores electricity generated by the generator and then provides electricity to the building. The electricity will be lost in small amounts over time. Switch turns electricity on or off. Wire bridge allows wires to pass through walls or floor tiles. There is no building that Jiang Sheng wants in this level of research. However, there is a building that Jiang Sheng is very attracted to in the next level of technology for power regulation. The next level of technology for power regulation is called internal combustion engine, and there are only two buildings that can be unlocked. Coal generator converts coal into electricity. Wood burner burns wood to produce electricity. Both are buildings that produce electricity. Although there are only two buildings, they are indeed heavy buildings, because it took humans many years to invent them, and the clone technology can be researched only at the second level of technology. The second level of technology can be dealt with the most basic research station. Jiang Sheng can research two technologies at once, and unlock these two power generation equipment. Although Jiang Sheng currently has no wood in his resources, he has as much as 5.4 tons of coal, which is perfect for power generation. Having made up his mind, Jiang Sheng asked Yeona to start researching, and research two technologies at once. The technology of the clones is the technology tree. If you want to obtain the technology of the internal combustion engine, you must first research the power regulation technology of the previous level. Power regulation requires 15 research points, and the internal combustion engine requires 20 research points, which adds up to 35 research points. Previously, it took Bly 2 hours to obtain a research point. According to Yeona's 7-point scientific attribute, to increase efficiency by 70%, Yeona needs 49 hours, which is a full 2 days, and 1 hour to complete the research. But this is an ideal situation. The clones also need to sleep 8 hours a day, in addition to eating, excreting, and resting. Jiang Sheng found that after he started to manage the clones, he became more and more like a black-hearted boss, and even wanted the clones to work without sleep. But no matter what, this is much faster than Bly previous research. Chapter 43 New Food Sources. Cycle 10 Colonial Report. Details of clones. Calories produced. 0 cal consumption. 6,000 cal net value, minus 6,000 cal stress increase. 6% decrease. 0% net value. 6% disease status, no sick clones. Time details, working time. 59%. Walking time. 3% idle time. 4% base details, oxygen output. 7.5 kilograms. Consumption. 5 kilograms net value. 2.5 kilograms overall evaluation. Survival points plus 20 survival points. Jiang Sheng found the most surprising part of yesterday's colony report, just after waking up in the morning. It seems that the number of survival points is indeed closely related to the number of clones. A clone can get 5 survival points per day. If this rate continues, in another 4 days, he can print another clone. In addition, Jiang Sheng did not arrange time for the clones to listen to art therapy yesterday, but played classical music when the clones were working. The result is that the stress of the clones will continue to increase, but not as much as when no music is played. In other words, if you want to relieve the pressure of the replicants, you need to meet the 3 conditions of music, art paintings, and rest time at the same time. If only one of them is met, it can only slow down the growth rate of the replicant's stress. However, Jiang Sheng also noticed that there is a technology category called decoration in the technology tree. There should be technologies related to the decompression of replicants in the decoration technology. If it is a technology built by the replicants themselves, the decompression effect should be better than their own decompression therapy. In terms of food, Jiang Sheng checked the growth rate of food in the plantation yesterday. The slug tree will mature today, and the thorn flower will take about 2 days to harvest. Today, the replicants can eat real food. When he came to Noah, Jiang Sheng first went to the botanical garden to check the situation of the slug tree, the current growth progress of the slug tree. 100% sure enough, all 15 slug trees in the plantation are mature and can be picked. There is light in the plantation, but it is not light, but the light emitted by glowworms. Jiang Sheng used a bug net to catch 2 glowworms from the algae cave, and then placed apple slices and phosphate rock powder in the corner of the plantation. Unlike clones, the glowworms would not refuse the food Jiang Sheng brought from Earth. With an abundant food source, the 2 glowworms naturally stayed in the plantation. Moreover, Jiang Sheng found that the more phosphate rock he fed to the glowworms, the brighter the glowworms became. The cultivation condition of the thorn flower requires light, and Jiang Sheng solved it in this way. With the light source of the glowworms, the thorn flowers in the plantation can grow. Under the light of the glowworms, Jiang Sheng can also see what a mature ice-slice tree looks like. A mature ice-slice tree looks like a thick branch inserted in the soil, without a single leaf on it. There is only one fork on the branch, and one of the forks has a fat white fruit. Jiang Sheng's full attention was attracted by this fat white fruit. Rice slice, a kind of food without any taste, which hardly moves on its own. Quality, disgusting effect. 800 cal decay time. 4 cycles. If they were not to fill their stomachs, they would definitely not eat this kind of thing. According to the information in the visual command system, this plump white fruit is the fruit of the rice slug tree. The rice slug. There are circles of wavy scales on the rice slug, which looks very hard, but if you touch it with your hand, you will find that this layer of scales is actually softer than you think. And when Jiang Sheng touches it slightly, the rice slug will twist its body like a cocoon. Is this a plant or an animal? Jiang Sheng knows that among the plants on Earth, there are mimosa, Venus flytrop, pitcher plant, etc. that can react quickly according to changes in the external environment. Is the rice slug also a plant with a similar mechanism to these plants? Jiang Sheng grabbed the rice slug and took it off the rice slug with a little force. The connection between the rice slug and the rice slug is not very tight. It probably only takes the strength of picking a grape from a bunch of grapes to pick the rice slug off. Putting the picked rice slug on the ground, although it will hardly cause displacement, it can still be seen that the rice slug is wriggling. This is an animal. Jiang Sheng is now very sure that this rice louse is an animal. However, the vision command system does not define rice louse as an animal, but a worm. Perhaps for Noah, whether rice louse is an animal or a plant is meaningless. Anyway, its only function is to serve as food for clones. The number of calories that each rice louse fruit and each slime cake can provide is the same. Both are 800 cal, but the difference is that the quality of rice louse fruit is disgusting. The same level as the nutrition bar given at the beginning, but one level higher than the very disgusting slime cake. And in the bacteria view, you can't see that rice louse fruit carries bacteria. But rice louse has an obvious disadvantage as food. That is, it has a rot time 4 cycles of rot time. That is, it can rot within 4 days. But eating rice louse raw is not the only option for clones. In the upper left corner of Jiang Sheng's vision, it is prompted that Jiang Sheng has unlocked a new food formula. Jiang Sheng hurriedly climbed from the second floor to the base on the first floor along the up and down passages, and came to the food compressor to check the new food formula. Rice louse bread. Press rice louse into food similar to bread. Recipe. 1600 cal rice louse. 50 kg water effect. 2000 cal quality. Terrible decay time. 4 cycles. This is a new recipe that the food compressor has just unlocked. It consumes 2 rice louse and can produce a rice louse bread that provides 2000 cal of energy. The adjective terrible should be softer than disgusting, so the food quality of rice louse bread is also a level higher than rice louse. Now the question is it better to eat rice louse directly raw or to make rice louse bread to eat? Electricity plus labor plus 1600 cal rice louse plus 50 kg water equals 2000 cal rice louse bread plus higher food quality. Jiang Sheng thought about it, and it seemed that making rice louse bread was more suitable. After making plans, Jiang Sheng began to arrange harvesting for the clones. The 15 rice louse trees planted in the first round harvested a total of 15 rice louse and 1 rice louse seed. If this rice louse seed is replanted, Jiang Sheng will be able to obtain 16 rice louse in the next round of harvest. After putting the extra rice slug wood into the grain box, Jiang Sheng assigned the task of processing 7 rice slug breads. It was the same operation process as before when making mud cakes. Bly squatted beside the food compressor and stared at the metal in the middle. With his other hand, he held the metal joystick. He couldn't tell the difference between operating it this way and not operating it. Just as the clones were busy with their own things, Jiang Sheng suddenly heard the sound of soil turning and gravel falling around him. Following the sound, he saw that there was an area of soil loosening under the gravel wall behind the printing cabin, as if something was moving inside. Chapter 44 2 Delicious Hatches. Jiang Sheng immediately picked up the baseball bat standing beside the table with caution. Although this baseball bat was bought to prevent the replicants from having any improper thoughts, Jiang Sheng later kept it in Noah in case of emergency. The gravel on the wall was slightly turned over, and it was obvious that something was moving inside. Only the ground and ceiling of the entire colony were reinforced with gravel bricks, and the walls were not reinforced, so now the walls of the base are just the most ordinary gravel, and it is normal for small animals to dig in. Through the material view, Jiang Sheng has confirmed that this is a small animal. The material view can see the main material composition within 1 cubic meter. Assuming that there are 51% gravel and 49% air in 1 cubic meter, the material view can only see that the material composition of this cubic meter is gravel. Although this is very inconvenient, it is enough to judge the size of the animal behind the wall. Now the material view shows that the material composition of this cubic meter is all gravel, which means that the animal in the wall is a small animal, so small that it will not affect the material composition of this cubic meter of space. In fact, with the small space and poor nutrition here, it is very difficult for large animals to appear. Knowing that the animal behind the wall is a small animal, Jiang Sheng's heart was also comforted, and the baseball bat in his hand made him feel more secure. Sand, sand, sand. The gravel on the wall rolled down, and a lavender object came out from it. Crab. Jiang Sheng didn't know how to describe this animal, and subconsciously blurted out a crab. The body of this animal is between a small dog and a medium-sized dog. There is a lavender shell on the back, and there are irregular dark purple spots on the shell. Moreover, its shell is different from that of a turtle. The arc of the shell of this animal is very large, especially in the middle part, which is arched like a small mountain. In addition to the shell, the most intuitive and impressive thing for Jiang Sheng is the big mouth under the shell. The shell and the big mouth of this animal are almost seamlessly connected, and the nose or eyes are completely omitted in the middle, which looks a bit disgusting. The mouth opened wide and faced Jiang Sheng, with several sharp teeth on the side. Jiang Sheng would never doubt the bite force of this animal. Next to the animal, Jiang Sheng saw some information about it. Hacky hatch. There are many kinds of food for the delicious hatch, but its excrement is solid coal. Food, gravel, sand, clay, dirt, sedimentary rock, all clone food excrement. Coal health. 20/20 wildness. 100%. Hacky hatch has no eyes, and its vision has completely degenerated, but it has light sensitive patches on its top that can sense the slightest light changes. It is one of the animals perfectly adapted to life in the darkness below the surface. When trying to pet a delicious hatch, inexperienced operators will reach their hands to the top of the creature, but this is a mistake. This operation will trigger a fear response in the delicious hatch, and they will instinctively interpret this sudden change in light as an attack by an aerial predator. It is difficult to categorize the types of food that a delicious hatch eats. The term omnivore does not cover the non-organic substances that a delicious hatch can ingest. The term full feeder is more appropriate to describe it. The correct way to establish a friendly relationship with a delicious hatch is to touch one of its forelegs, to let it know your presence, and then gently rub its soft segmented abdomen or pat its thick horny back. Remember, don't let it think of you as food. The message is very long. This is the first time Jiang Sheng has seen such a long message. And there is a lot of useful information in it, or it is all useful information, which allows Jiang Sheng to determine the preferences of this animal without taking the risk of experimentation. Jiang Sheng is very interested in the food mechanism of this creature. It can digest inorganic matter, absorb the energy in inorganic matter, and excrete coal, no matter what it eats. What is this concept? An endless supply of coal. I'm currently studying power technology, and an important part of power technology is coal generators, which require a lot of coal to generate electricity. Coal is a consumable or a non-renewable resource. But in Noah, because of the existence of Haochi hatch, coal is a renewable resource. Jiang Sheng now wants to observe Haochi hatch up close, but now Jiang Sheng dare not even move. Because at this time, the light of the printing cabin behind Jiang Sheng is just blocked by Jiang Sheng's body. If Jiang Sheng moves his body at this time, the light of the printing cabin will immediately shine on Haochi hatch. The message said that when Haochi sensed the sudden change in light, he would immediately respond to the enemy. The last sentence of the message showed that Hachichi was fully capable of using clones as food. If even clones could be used as food, then there would be no problem for him, the original weak human. So in order to prevent Hachichi from treating him as an enemy, Jiang Sheng could only pretend to be a statue, to keep the surrounding light stable, and see what Hachichi would do next. Hachichi stood there for a few seconds, then used his forelegs to rotate half a circle clockwise, and then half a circle counterclockwise, as if collecting information about the surrounding environment. After stopping for a few seconds, Hachichi turned around and crawled to the right side of the printing cabin. Jiang Sheng looked in the direction where Hachichi crawled and guessed Hachichi's destination. Study table. Jiang Sheng placed a study table next to Noah's printing cabin, not for studying, but for placing his personal belongings. And under the study table, the egg of Hachichi that he had picked up before was placed there. Jiang Sheng had seen some dinosaur movies, and the dinosaur mothers were very severe in punishing egg thieves. If this delicious hatch saw the egg he picked up, wouldn't he become an egg thief? In the distance, the delicious hatch stared at the egg in the cage quietly. Although it had no eyes, the direction its big mouth was facing should be the direction it cared about most at this moment. The purple egg began to shake slightly, and a crack appeared on the eggshell. Click, click, click. The eggshell broke, and a small delicious hatch came out of the eggshell. There was no crying of a baby, nor the squeak of a newborn animal waiting to be fed. After coming out of the eggshell, the newly born delicious hatch just quietly turned around in the cage twice. After 2 circles, the delicious hatch stopped in front of the delicious hatch outside the cage. The 2 delicious hatches noticed each other's existence, and they looked at each other mouth to mouth across the cage. Chapter 45 Taming. Are they mother and son? The information about the delicious hatch did not say whether this animal has gender, but generally, females are responsible for giving birth, so Jiang Sheng directly defined the gender of this adult delicious hatch as female. At this moment, the 2 delicious hatches took the next step at the same time. The 2 delicious hatches turned around and pointed their backs at each other. The carapace on the top of the delicious hatch is an arched mountain shape, with the center of the back being the highest point, and the carapace at the rear end being the lowest point. The 2 delicious hatches faced each other with their backs, and then used the 2 tail carapaces to tentatively touch each other's tail carapaces. Jiang Sheng thought this might be their way of greeting each other. The 2 tail carapaces touched and rubbed together for a while, and the 2 delicious hatches faced each other with their big mouths, stirring the upper and lower jaws of the big mouths back and forth. If it weren't for the fact that there was no sound, Jiang Sheng would think they were talking. In this way, the delicious hatch in the cage turned around to eat its own eggshells, while the delicious hatch outside began to eat the sand and gravel scattered around. Since the ground of the base was cleaned up relatively well, and the ground was still full of hard gravel bricks, and Haochi Hatch had no neck, it was not convenient for him to eat these gravels at all, so Haochi Hatch turned his head to eat the wall. My wall. Jiang Sheng felt very distressed. Although it was a native wall that did not cost any labor, it was the load-bearing wall of his base. If it was eaten by Haochi Hatch, his base would face the risk of collapse. Or 1,000-mile embankment was destroyed by an anthole, and Jiang Sheng must stop this behavior. If he wanted to stop this behavior, eliminating Haochi Huggers was definitely not a good way. After all, the excrement of this thing was coal, which was very useful for his future development. Moreover, facing a species that could threaten the replicants, his best choice was to establish a friendly relationship with it. It happened that Haochi Hatch's information introduced how to establish a friendly relationship with Haochi Hatch. Jiang Sheng looked at the light conditions around the Haochi Hatch that was gnawing on the wall, and then tried his best not to block the light covering Haochi Hatch with his body. I don't know what hearing Haochi Hatch has, but it's always right to be gentle. Jiang Sheng slowly entered the 1-meter range around Haochi Hatch, but Haochi Hatch still did not react, and continued to gnaw the wall attentively. Should I touch its forelegs at this time? Haochi Hatch was eating. According to general experience, disturbing an animal's eating at this time may not end well. Haochi Hatch's mouth is very big, and it is not difficult for him to swallow Jiang Sheng's whole hand. Look at the left hand, then the right hand. Which hand? Considering that these two hands play a major role in his daily life, Jiang Sheng thinks he should touch Heochi Hatch with a baseball bat to see how it reacts. Touching someone's body with a baseball bat is not a friendly behavior, but Heochi Hatch is just an animal, and I believe it should not be able to perceive this level. Take the baseball bat and slowly reach out to one of Heochi Hatch's forelegs. Slowly, the wooden bat touches one of Heochi Hatch's legs. The sense of touch is something that no animal can lose no matter what, and the same is true for Heochi Hatch. It sensed this change and immediately stopped gnawing the wall and turned its flexible limbs, as if searching for any changes in the surrounding environment. The limbs of Heochi Hatch are similar in structure to crab claws, but much more flexible than crab claws. They can do any action except standing upright, and they are also strong enough to withstand the large amount of sand and gravel in their stomachs. Jiang Sheng touched Heochi Hatch's feet again. This time, Heochi Hatch determined the direction of the object that touched him and immediately crawled 2 steps towards Jiang Sheng. Jiang Sheng was frightened by this sudden action and took 2 steps back, but fortunately, Heochi Hatch did not move further. It seems that Heochi Hatch will be very tolerant of the behavior of disturbing its feeding, otherwise the head of the baseball bat must have been bitten off. Jiang Sheng touched Heochi Hatch's feet a few more times with the baseball. When he was sure that Heochi Hatch did not react, Jiang Sheng finally decided to use his own hands to communicate with Heochi Hatch in depth. Jiang Sheng first moved over to touch Heochi Hatch's feet. His squatting body would not affect the light conditions on Heochi Hatch's back at all. After touching it a few times, Heochi Hatch did not react. Jiang Sheng finally felt relieved to move his body closer. After getting closer, Jiang Sheng's face was less than 50 centimeters away from the bloody mouth. Although it was a bloody mouth, there was actually no red color inside. The teeth of Heochi Hatch were slightly whitish yellow, and the inside of the mouth was earthy yellow. Because it had to chew a series of hard objects such as sand and gravel, Heochi Hatch's mouth must be as hard as its shell. And there was no odor coming out of Heochi Hatch's mouth. If there was a smell, it might be the earthy smell of the sand and gravel that it had just eaten. Now Jiang Sheng touched Heochi Hatch's forelegs many times, and Heochi Hatch had no unfriendly reaction, which meant that it was time to move on to the next step. The next step was to touch Heochi Hatch's abdomen first. With the previous experience, Jiang Sheng's actions were much more decisive. He directly reached his hand into the empty space under Heochi Hatch's abdomen, and then gently rubbed Heochi Hatch's abdomen as described in the information. Heochi Hatch's abdomen was a little cold. Although Jiang Sheng had never touched it, the feeling should be the same as touching snakes. There are sections of scales under the abdomen, but the abdomen can be felt to be soft, as if there are no bones under the scales, and a little force will sink it. Feeling someone touching its abdomen, the head of Heochi Hatch actually began to nod up and down. In fact, Heochi Hatch has no structure like a neck. The entire front end is a big mouth. It is the upper and lower jaws of Heochi Hatch's big mouth that are shaking together. Jiang Sheng regarded this big mouth as its head. It must be very satisfied with his touch. Next, Jiang Sheng touched the top of the carapace, which is the back part, and Heochi Hatch still did not resist. After touching Heochi Hatch's forelegs, abdomen, and back for 10 minutes, Jiang Sheng was sure that he had tamed this Heochi Hatch. Now even if Jiang Sheng used his hands to shake back and forth, affecting the light conditions on Heochi Hatch's back, Heochi Hatch would not react at all. Then, Jiang Sheng released another Heochi Hatch from the cage. The eggshells in the cage had been eaten by the delicious hatch, which made Jiang Sheng feel a little pity. If possible, he would like to keep its eggshells as samples. Jiang Sheng used the same method to tame the little delicious hatch. Now, in addition to Jiang Sheng himself, the clones, and the glowworms, Jiang Sheng's base finally welcomed the 4th resident animal. Chapter 46 Planning of Industrial Areas. Cycle 11 Colonial Report. Details of clones. Calories produced. 14,800 cal consumption. 8,000 cal net value. 6,800 cal stress increase. 0% decrease. 0% net value. 0% disease status. No sick clones. Time details. Working time. 59%. Walking time. 5% idle time. 2% details of base, oxygen output. 10.5 kilograms, consumption. 5 kilograms net value. 2.5 kilograms comprehensive evaluation, survival points plus 20. This is the first time that the stress value has not increased or decreased, which makes Jiang Sheng happy. This shows that the improvement in food quality does have a good inhibitory effect on the stress of clones. Yesterday, Jiang Sheng made 7 loaves of loaves bread from the first harvest of loaves, but it is obvious that the food production is still not enough. If you want the 4 clones in the base to eat better quality loaves bread for a long time, you need to harvest more loaves of loaves. The chance of harvesting seeds of the slug tree is 10%. It takes about 10 slug trees to produce 1 slug tree seed. The chance of harvesting this seed is still very low. But fortunately, after the slugs are harvested, the original wood stump is still considered a slug tree and can continue to grow slugs. In order to plant more plants, Jiang Sheng plans to open up another plantation above the second floor plantation after he has enough seeds. But opening up a new plantation is only to allow the replicants to maintain food such as slug bread. You must know that the quality of slug bread is only bad. If you eat it for a long time, the pressure should continue to increase. Jiang Sheng must continue to look for higher level food sources until the quality of these foods can be infinitely close to the current human diet level, so that it is possible to truly eliminate the increase in the pressure of the replicants from the food quality. In addition, yesterday Jiang Sheng also expanded the area where the compost pile was placed in the lower space of the base, and placed a second compost pile. With the increase in population, if you want to deal with more contaminated soil, you can only increase the number of compost piles. And Jiang Sheng also completely understands why the introduction of the compost pile indicates that the replicants are so resistant to this thing. These 2 days, when Jiang Sheng went down to put the contaminated soil collected in the rental house on the compost pile, he was almost suffocated by the stench there. Fortunately, the oxygen in the lower space is thin, and Jiang Sheng went down with a portable oxygen tank, so he was saved from being stinking to death by the air there. Noah's colony is a closed space, and the stench cannot be eliminated. If it accumulates for a long time, the consequences will be disastrous. I'm afraid that even the base will be filled with stench in the end. So Jiang Sheng waited until the current power technology was finished and prepared to study liquid technology directly. Liquid technology has buildings that can handle this situation. And the delicious hatch that Jiang Sheng tamed yesterday did not leave after a night. They seemed to have settled here. Jiang Sheng asked the replicator to put some sand and gravel blocks on the ground. For these sand and gravel blocks, delicious hatch can also use them as food. The blocks that came out of the replicator's production gun are several times denser than the original matter. Delicious hatch can still use them as food. It can be seen that the bite force of Delicious Hatch's big mouth is really amazing. The sentence "be careful not to be used as food by Delicious Hatch" is not a joke. Fortunately, Jiang Sheng only kept Haochi Hatch in the base. He had established a friendly relationship with Haochi Hatch, and the replicants would not actively approach Haochi Hatch. The most dangerous time is when the replicants are sleeping. However, there is a pneumatic door between the base and the replicant's bedroom next to it. The small animals cannot cross the pneumatic door to enter the replicant's bedroom. If there are enough sand and gravel blocks in the base, Haochi Hatch will not dig a hole to enter the replicant's bedroom. When he came to Noah this morning, Jiang Sheng saw black spheres in the base. According to the information in his vision, Jiang Sheng knew that this was coal, which was excreted by Haochi Hatch, or coal briquettes. These coal briquettes seem to have a lot of impurities, and yellowish sand and gravel can be seen in the black surface. But according to the principle of material view, as long as the space volume exceeds 50%, it is judged as a single substance. Originally, Jiang Sheng thought that replicants could not collect such things, just like replicants could not collect floating soil on the ground. But Jiang Sheng tried it, and found that replicants could actually collect these small coal briquettes. It seems that the working logic of the replicators took into account the characteristics of various species in Noah when designing, but did not take into account Jiang Sheng's personal requirements for environmental comfort. However, the excrement output of Heochi hatch is very low, and Jiang Sheng's idea of using Heochi hatch's excrement as the main source of coal is basically shattered. Jiang Sheng calculated that from yesterday to today, the Heochi hatches only excreted less than 200 kilograms of coal balls. At this output rate, it cannot change the nature of coal as a consumable ore. And according to Jiang Sheng's observation yesterday, Heochi hatch's eating method is somewhat like dung beetles. Dung beetles are what people call dung beetles. The way dung beetles eat is to eat and excrete at the same time. Heochi hatch is similar to dung beetles in this regard. The big mouth in front of Heochi hatch is still eating sand and gravel, and the back immediately excretes a fist-sized coal ball. When the eating is finished, the excretion is basically completed. Fortunately, these coal balls do not emit odors, and it is very convenient for applicators to collect them. They can be sucked away with the production gun. Today, Jiang Sheng arranged for the clones to open up the lower space. So far, Jiang Sheng has been vigorously developing the caves at the same level as the base and the plantations on the upper level. The planning of the lower space has basically not been carried out. In addition, there is a small closet-like cave at the bottom left of the base, which contains 2 compost piles. At present, the carbon dioxide in the base has reached a considerable level. If these carbon dioxide gases are not allowed to settle in the lower space, Jiang Sheng himself will definitely be in danger, not to mention the clones. So Jiang Sheng plans to dig a large enough space in the lower level today to create a suitable industrial area for the power production building that will be completed in 2 days, and at the same time, let the carbon dioxide in the base settle. A small space has been dug at the bottom left of the base, but it is currently full of odor. If it is not dealt with, and it continues to work there for a long time, it is likely that the clones will have some bad debuffs. So Jiang Sheng plans to dig down from the right side of the base. Jiang Sheng first plans the excavation and construction tasks of the upper and lower channels on the material view, and just extends it down along the upper and lower channels on the right. Jiang Sheng did not plan to build the industrial zone directly below the base. If the temperature in the industrial zone was too high, wouldn't the base cave become a steamer on the oven? Therefore, the industrial zone must be built horizontally and downward, and there is no vertical relationship with the base. Chapter 47 Water Gate. Jiang Sheng chose to build the industrial zone below the bedroom of the replica. The bedroom of the replica is located on the right side of the base, and the industrial zone is built below the bedroom of the replica, which is just misaligned with the base. And Jiang Sheng does not plan to put the industrial zone directly on the negative first floor, but on the negative second floor, separating a layer of space from the bedroom of the replica, so that the heat is less likely to dissipate to the bedroom of the replica on the first floor. At present, Jiang Sheng has not obtained building materials with heat insulation effect. The only way to insulate is to use space distance for insulation. The cave specifications of the industrial zone are still 16x3x4. In addition to the need to excavate the corresponding space, sandstone floor tiles must be built on the ceiling and the ground to prevent collapse. In general, expanding the colony in Noah is a very troublesome thing. While the replica was working, Jiang Sheng continued to explore Noah. As the colony gradually expanded, Jiang Sheng's field of view gradually increased. At present, Jiang Sheng can see a farther range than at the beginning. In the temperature view, Jiang Sheng found some extremely unusual phenomena. On the right side of the algae cave, there is an area where the sandstone temperature is quite low, with a temperature of 912. The temperature below the surface generally has a constant temperature gradient. If there is no special geological conditions, the temperature will show a regular vertical change. At present, the temperature at the depth where Jiang Sheng is located is about 22. The sudden appearance of such an area with a temperature of only 912 will of course be very eye-catching. Jiang Sheng guessed that it is very likely that there are special geological conditions nearby that affect the temperature of this area. Otherwise, the vertical height difference between that area and the base is only more than 120 meters, and it is impossible to have a temperature difference of 10. The geological conditions below the surface are not static. The most serious and common geological structure that affects the temperature below the surface is the underground volcano. but the temperature of this area is relatively lower than the normal temperature gradient, so it is more likely to be ice fields. Ice fields do not necessarily exist only on the surface, but also below the surface. Ice fields are actually a large amount of water and a sufficiently low temperature. As long as these two conditions are met, it is not surprising that ice fields appear anywhere. A few years ago, a scientific research team announced that traces of ice fields had been found underground on Mars, and even a scientific team directly said that they had found underground ice fields on the moon. At that time, some people who believed in alien life or looked forward to alien immigration were excited for a long time. Although it is not known whether it is true or not, it at least shows that some alien planets with special geographical conditions may have underground ice sheets. And the current sand and gravel area with lower temperature also shows that there is a high possibility of ice sheets in Noah. It's just that Jiang Sheng's vision is not wide enough at present, and the fog of war has not been unlocked to a farther distance, so he can't see what is outside the low temperature sand and gravel area. However, as the colony expands, one day he will see the scenery there. Going to the lower right corner of the base, specifically the area of more than 70 meters in the industrial zone that has just been built, there is a place that Jiang Sheng is also very concerned about. This place is obviously within Jiang Sheng's field of vision, but Jiang Sheng can't see the structure inside the area. No matter which view, this square area is pitch black, and it is unclear what is inside. But in the corners shrouded in darkness, Jiang Sheng can see that this area is surrounded by bricks. This is a man-made building. The material view judges that the area surrounded by the dark area is not ordinary sand and gravel, but bricks, which are basic building materials that can only be produced by clones. This can only mean that the entire dark area is a man-made building. Jiang Sheng is very sure that he has not commanded the clones to go so far to build a building that he cannot see, and it is impossible for the clones to secretly build it themselves. That is to say, this man-made building already existed before Jiang Sheng. Considering that Jiang Sheng did not find intelligent life other than himself and the clones in Noah, the time of this man-made building should be relatively far away. In this case, it would be more appropriate to call this man-made building a relic. At present, what Jiang Sheng wants to explore most is this relic. Jiang Sheng has already asked the clones to open up the road through this relic in advance, building a small section of the road every day. After a few days, there is already a road leading to this relic. Of course, Jiang Sheng did not leave this road leading to the outside world open. In order to prevent the oxygen in the base from leaking to the outside world through this road and increase the workload of the oxygen diffuser, Jiang Sheng designed a special water gate. The so-called water gate is a door made by using the property of water to isolate most gases. It is also very simple to make, that is, using bricks to build a stepped funnel shape on the passage leading to the outside world. The bottom of this funnel is solid, and it needs to be filled with water. There is a vertical wall above the stepped funnel to ensure that air cannot flow into the base from other places. It looks like this. Gas x gas 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 x gas x water 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 x x water x x. Needless to say, this water gate can block the flow of most common gases. When it is necessary to pass through, both humans and clones can pass through the water funnel below. The advantage of this method is obvious. It does not require high technology or electricity to achieve a relatively perfect gas isolation. The disadvantage is that going out through this water gate will get wet. In order to make these expeditions safer, Jiang Sheng spent some time preparing tools. In addition to ensuring the lights along the way, the biggest problem is oxygen and protection. Jiang Sheng does not have the physical fitness of a clone. Although the distance is only more than 70 meters, Jiang Sheng must be thrifty and can only set off after sufficient preparation. The first is the oxygen tank to ensure oxygen. Because he has to pass through the water gate, Jiang Sheng simply spent more than 3,000 yuan on the internet to buy an oxygen tank set for diving. This is different from a portable oxygen tank. The principle of a diving oxygen tank is a compressed air bottle. As long as the air is pumped into the oxygen tank, it can be reused. In terms of protection, Jiang Sheng bought a diving suit. Also because of the water gate, ordinary protective clothing will definitely get wet if it goes into the water. It is better to wear a diving suit directly and equip it with a waterproof searchlight. In addition to these, Jiang Sheng also bought some rock climbing tools in case of emergency. Equipped with all the tools, Jiang Sheng stood on the stairs at the edge of the water gate and jumped down into the water. The water in the water gate is not very deep, and the deepest part is only 2 meters high. Although Jiang Sheng wore a diving suit and carried an oxygen tank for the first time to swim, he still passed through the water gate relatively easily. Behind the water gate is a dark and deep passage, which is the passage that the clone has opened. When seeing this scene, it is not difficult for Jiang Sheng to imagine why the pressure on the clones continues to increase. Chapter 48, Security Gate of the Ruins. Humans and most animals on Earth are phototropic. If clones can imitate human habits to the greatest extent, then clones should also be phototropic. Although clones have extremely strong night vision, it is not strong enough to see a completely dark environment without light as daytime. Due to the limited lighting in the colony, clones work in a semi-dark environment most of the time. It would be strange if they did not feel stressed after working in such an environment for a long time. If they were ordinary humans, they would have collapsed long ago. Therefore, clones have a higher psychological tolerance than humans. Back to the present, Jiang Sheng is walking in the dark passage in a diving suit. The dark passage has a strong ability to absorb light. The small light source in Jiang Sheng's hand cannot illuminate too far, and there is still more darkness in front. Fortunately, Jiang Sheng has a view and can see where this passage will eventually lead to. After walking inside for about 10 minutes and climbing over several 1-meter steps, Jiang Sheng finally stood above the ruins. When Jiang Sheng planned to dig the passage, he did not design a passage perpendicular to the ruins because he could not see the horizontal range of this shadow area clearly. If the passage planning is wrong, the replicants will dig into the ruins and destroy the ruins themselves, which will not be worth the loss. Therefore, Jiang Sheng dug the passage above the ruins and airdropped directly from the top of the ruins to the door of the ruins. Airdrop, in fact, is only 2 meters above the ground. This ruins is a man-made building that is obviously independent of the surrounding environment. The ceiling and sandstone above the ruins are at a height that a person can pass through. When actually observing the ruins itself, Jiang Sheng discovered that the bricks used in the ruins are different from the bricks made by the replicants in the base. The bricks made by the replicants in the base are the original color of sandstone, while the bricks here are light green bricks. From the material view, the bricks here are not made of sandstone, but sedimentary rocks. After a circle on the ceiling of the ruins, Jiang Sheng found something interesting. On a mound of about 1 cubic meter, there is a plant that looks very familiar growing on it. Thimbleweed. Thimbleweed can provide excellent quality soft reed fiber for clothing production. Seed harvest probability: 10% wild growth conditions, 8 cycles to maturity, oxygen or polluted oxygen, carbon dioxide, polluted water or water, 2237 cultivation growth conditions, 2 cycles to maturity, oxygen or polluted oxygen, carbon dioxide, polluted water or water, 2237. 16 kilograms of sewage/cycle current growth progress. 100%. The thimbleweed is a wetland plant. Because of its fine fibers, it grows at an amazing rate. They will like the fabric woven from reeds very much. This thimbleweed is more than half a person tall and looks similar to the reeds on Earth. The top of the reed is like a needle, and there are fine cilia on this needle. There are balls of reed fibers that have fallen or scattered around this thimbleweed. When the visual system introduces information about a certain type of animal or plant, it starts with their use, as if the plants in Noah exist because they have some use for the replicants. The use of the thimbleweed is obviously to make clothes. In addition, Jiang Sheng discovered another use. Thimbleweeds need to consume sewage under the conditions of cultivation and growth, and the consumption rate is astonishingly 16 kg/cycle. This is just one thimbleweed. If I have a thimbleweed, then there is a way to deal with the sewage in the base. However, Jiang Sheng knew that this should be the same as the cultivation of the sedgewood. It is not a physical consumption. Consuming 16 kilograms of sewage per cycle should mean consuming the nutrients needed by the thimbleweed in 16 kilograms of sewage. Excluding the nutrients needed by the thimbleweed in the sewage may still be sewage. However, Jiang Sheng currently has no technology related to clothing that can be unlocked. The main purpose of the thimble reed cannot be used, and there is not enough sewage in the base to provide the thimble reed for long-term growth. Therefore, Jiang Sheng does not plan to plant this thimble reed in his base. Let it grow freely here for a while. Jiang Sheng began to put climbing ropes on the bricks above the ruins. More than 10 minutes later, Jiang Sheng finally made a small gap between the bricks, nailed the steel spike into it, and then put a rope on the end of the steel spike. Judging from the solidity of these bricks, this relic is likely to be made by a clone or a civilization with the same technology as the clone. It may even be the creator of the clone. Although Jiang Sheng has been directing the clones to carry out production activities for some time, Jiang Sheng has never been so arrogant as to regard himself as the creator of the clone. Judging from the technology tree of the clone, the civilization that created the clone has far exceeded human imagination in many fields. The printing cabin can print clones out of thin air, which means that it is far superior to humans in the field of biotechnology. Energy technology is the foundation for a civilization to develop sustainably. In interstellar war movies, it is meaningless to fight for territory in the vast universe. The key to the competition among civilizations is actually energy. Although the base is mainly operated by electricity, Jiang Sheng cannot figure out the source of energy for the printing cabin and the production gun. This energy of unknown source is also far beyond that of the Earth. What Jiang Sheng also puzzled was the performance of the clones in daily technology. With extremely high basic energy technology and biotechnology, the daily technology is similar to that of the current Earth, or even slightly behind. This sense of disharmony in the development of science and technology, or the sense that the technology tree is crooked, sometimes makes Jiang Sheng feel that everything in Noah is so unreal. Just like the thing called the security door in front of him, it makes Jiang Sheng feel like he has come into contact with future technology. Jiang Sheng came directly to the main entrance of the ruins, after parachuting down from the ceiling of the ruins. This is a door with white on the top and orange on the bottom. The overall layout of the door is very modern and beautiful. What really makes people feel very futuristic and technological is that there is a silver round mirror in the middle of the door. The surface of the mirror looks curved, and it doesn't even look like a solid mirror. Jiang Sheng remembered a movie called Stargate. The silver mercury-like mirror in the Stargate in the movie is like the mirror in this door at this time. Security door, a solid door equipped with an extremely complex gene mirror effect, provides clones with access rights. A door that only they can pass through. The introduction is simple and cannot answer Jiang Sheng's doubts. But Jiang Sheng knows that, if he wants to open this door, he can only call a clone over. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Neural Oscillators. The information on the security door indicated that only clones would be given access, and the mirror-like thing on the door was called a gene mirror. It seems that this mirror should be a gene testing device that tests the genes of the clones. This is exactly what Jiang Sheng wants. Even without these introductions, Jiang Sheng can only let the clone come and try to open the door, instead of putting his hand in. Jiang Sheng called a clone over, and Owen took the initiative to come. When Jiang Sheng assigned tasks, he did not specify which clone would perform a certain task. The clones would choose who to perform according to their skills. For example, if there is an excavation task and a construction task, Bly, who is high in excavation, must choose the excavation work, and Jiang Sheng, who is high in construction, must choose the construction task. At the same time, the level of skills also represents the degree of preference of the clone for a certain job. Just like in this case, Owen's strength is -3, and his carrying and combat abilities are lower than those of ordinary clones. The carrying ability will affect the size of the blocks Owen excavates each time, which also means that Owen does not like this kind of physical labor. At this time, if there are other tasks that do not require physical strength and have the same priority as the current task, Owen will put down the task in hand and turn to another task. Jiang Sheng called this task allocation mechanism, making the best use of talents. Using skill data to automatically allocate tasks saves Jiang Sheng from assigning each replica to a specific job. Owen is very fast and can jog all the way in the dark, thanks to the semi-darkness in the replica's vision. However, standing above the ceiling of the ruins, Owen was in trouble. Because the difference between the ground and the ceiling of the ruins exceeded 1 meter, this 1 meter distance made Owen unable to jump down. This is the setting of the replica. As long as the horizontal or vertical span exceeds 1 meter, it cannot be directly crossed. Moreover, the replica will not touch Jiang Sheng's things, so it cannot borrow the climbing rope that Jiang Sheng brought down to come down. However, this is not a big problem. Jiang Sheng asked Owen to build a ladder on the wall for stepping. Owen jumped directly from the ceiling of the ruins to the ladder, and then from the ladder to the ground at the same level as Jiang Sheng. To be honest, this set of movements is not easy. Owen jumped from the ceiling of the ruins to the ladder accurately like Tarzan without missing a step. In Jiang Sheng's opinion, if one has this jumping ability and body control ability, it is not difficult to jump down from a height of 2 meters. So the 1 meter limit of the clone is really just a setting. Jiang Sheng doesn't know why this setting is made. Owen ran to Jiang Sheng and stared at Jiang Sheng blankly. Jiang Sheng also glanced at Owen, who was wet all over because of wading through the water gate. At this time, Owen had a debuff on him. Owen, wet. This debuff is not too serious. As long as the clothes of the clone can return to a dry state before going to bed at night, this debuff will not be calculated in the survival points. It just requires Jiang Sheng to find a way to dry Owen's clothes after returning. Jiang Sheng ordered Owen to unlock the security door. Owen walked to the gene mirror in the security door and placed his arms horizontally in front of the gene mirror. A green scanning beam swept across Jiang Sheng's forearm, and then the gene mirror in the middle of the security door began to rotate, and the upper and lower areas began to separate. Under the light of the searchlight, Jiang Sheng finally saw the contents of this relic. It was like an empty laboratory. Although there was no test bench or anything like that, there was a large device in the middle that was the most eye-catching. This was a huge biological sample tank that could only be seen in science fiction movies. The sample tank was filled with light green liquid, and in the middle of the liquid, there was a brain. This was obviously not a human brain, because the size of this brain was far beyond the size of Jiang Sheng's head. Although the curved glass and green liquid of the tank would cause Jiang Sheng to make a mistake in judgment, in Jiang Sheng's opinion, this brain was as big as a wash basin. The sample tank was not independent, and it was connected to a cover similar to that used for perming hair. The cover was selected in mid-air, and below it was a dental recliner. This sample tank, the cover, and the recliner should be a set of equipment, because Jiang Sheng only saw an introduction next to it. Neural oscillator, a large synthetic brain, preserved in biological culture fluid. There is a chair next to it that can be connected to this device and can accommodate one person. Effect: fully allocate a new tray to the replicant. When oscillating, their bodies may feel strongly uncomfortable. The introduction is as simple as the security door of the ruins, except that it introduces the purpose. There is also a distribution list next to this information, which lists the 4 replicants in the base: Bly, Owen, Bly and Owen. The meaning is very clear now. That is, Jiang Sheng can give one of the replicants the opportunity to use this neural oscillator. The trays of replicants are good and bad. Among them, the tray of replicant is shared by all replicants, and the remaining trays are 2 trays for random replicants and 3 trays for replicants printed by genetic blueprints. This neural oscillator can add a tray, but it does not say whether it is a good tray or a bad tray, so Jiang Sheng did not dare to try it rashly. But considering that random replicants are infinite and replicants printed by genetic blueprints can only have one, Jiang Sheng decided to do an experiment with Owen. Owen happened to be right beside him, so he didn't need to let other clones pass through the water gate and get the wet debuff. Jiang Sheng assigned this neural oscillator to Owen in his mind, and Owen took the initiative to lie on the recliner. The cover above the recliner slowly fell down and completely covered Owen's head. Then there was a sound of a machine starting up, which came from the biological sample tank containing the giant brain. At the same time, Owen's body, sitting on the recliner, began to tremble slightly. At first, only the head shook slightly, then the upper body, and then the whole body shook violently, as if stimulated by an electric current. If the middle part of the recliner had not sunk very deeply, Owen would have fallen off it. This situation lasted for more than 5 minutes, and the sound of the machine slowly weakened until it disappeared completely. Owen stretched out his hands to remove the cover on his head and cleverly jumped to the ground. The expression on his face looked very happy, and he raised his hands and jumped for joy. The cover that Owen removed immediately looked like a scrapped machine. The cover was crooked, and the connecting rod on it was disconnected in half. The giant brain and the biological sample jar also lost its life color. It seems that this thing can only be used once, and it should be scrapped now. Looking at Owen's characteristics again, there have been some changes compared to before. Chapter 50 Fridge Bed and Massage Bed. Owen has one more tray than before. Good water ability. This clone can move as fast underwater as on land. This is Owen's new tray, and Jiang Sheng feels it is very useless. So what if he is fast underwater? The clones can't stay underwater all the time. The clones who stay underwater will get a debuff. Jiang Sheng will definitely try to reduce the number of times and time the clones go into the water. But it's better to have something than nothing. Jiang Sheng continued to explore the ruins to see what is besides the neural oscillator. In addition to the eye-catching neural oscillator in the middle of the ruins, there is also a square table and 2 chairs. There is nothing on the chairs, but there are 2 yellow mugs on the table. The liquid in the mugs has long dried up, leaving a layer of brown stains. Jiang Sheng picked up the mug and smelled it, and there was no smell. Judging from the weight, the 2 mugs should be glass, but the quality is very good, no less than the mugs on Earth. Clones can also produce glass with production guns, but they cannot produce such delicate glass products, so Jiang Sheng judged that this mug should not be produced by clones. But the bricks of this relic seem to be the product of clones, and the neural oscillator is also a technology for clones. In other words, when this relic was still used as a facility, were clones used as labor? And in this facility, in addition to clones, there are also people like himself who sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor. Back at the base, Jiang Sheng took his wireless hairdryer from the rental house. First, try to wring out as much water as possible from Owen's clothes and pants with your hands, and then blow the wireless hairdryer on Owen. As long as Owen's clothes and pants are blown to the point where no water drips, the wet debuff will be lifted. But even so, it took Jiang Sheng an hour to get everything done. He twisted his body and his bones made a crisp sound. Jiang Sheng felt very tired after today's exploration of the relic. It would be nice to have a back massage. This is what Jiang Sheng thought in his heart. At this moment, Jiang Sheng suddenly remembered that he had not tried a building in basic technology. Among medical technology, there are 2 basic technologies that Jiang Sheng has not tried. One is the fridge bed and the other is the massage bed. Jiang Sheng did not build these 2 buildings before because he did not have enough space and resources to use them, but now the clones have special bedrooms. There is enough space in the base, and the new power production building can be built soon. Now the colony can build these 2 buildings. So Jiang Sheng commanded the clones to start building a fridge bed and a massage bed in the base. After more than half an hour, the fridge bed and the massage bed were completed one after another. The fridge bed is similar to the operating bed used in the hospital. It is a bed with adjustable backrest height. It looks very sophisticated and has very good properties. Fridge bed, accelerate life recovery and treat physical wounds. Effect, health value plus 50/cycle. Pressure minus 10% cycle. Respiration plus 1% cycle in normal state. Health value plus 75/cycle. Pressure minus 20% cycle. Respiration plus 1% cycle. In medical state materials. 200 kilograms of sand and gravel. They need to lie on it when they are receiving treatment from their companions so that they will recover health earlier. From the introduction, this bed has 2 states. One is the normal state, which can be entered as long as you lie on it, and the speed of life recovery and stress reduction obtained are slightly slower. The other is the medical state, which should be the state that the replicant can enter when receiving treatment from his companions. Moreover, this fridge bed does not require electricity to obtain the corresponding effect, and everything looks so beautiful. But Jiang Sheng also found the disadvantages of this bed. That is, the effect of this fridge bed is measured in cycles. Does that mean that the replicant must lie on the bed for a whole day and cannot do any work? If so, the tridge bed is actually restoring the life and stress of the replicant at the cost of the labor force of the colony. For the colony with limited labor force at present, it is definitely not allowed to have a replicant lying on the bed for a day. Therefore, the idea of using the tridge bed to reduce stress is definitely not feasible. If the replicant is seriously injured, this tridge bed is still more useful. However, there are very few replicants in the base at present, or there is no chance of being injured at all, so the tridge bed is still a building that cannot be used for the time being. The massage bed next to it aroused Jiang Sheng's interest. The shape of the massage bed is rather peculiar. It is an ordinary bed with two mechanical hands in the shape of hand knives installed on it. It is worth noting that this mechanical hand in the shape of hand knives also has 4 fingers. Massage bed. Quickly reduce the pressure of the clones. Requirement: 240 watts of electricity effect. Pressure -1% / 10 minutes. Heat 625 joules / second. Material: 200 kilograms of copper ore. Whenever they feel that they are under too much pressure, they will automatically look for a nearby massage bed. This is not bad. Jiang Sheng remembered that his previous audiovisual art therapy was far less effective than this massage bed in reducing the pressure of a single clone. But his audiovisual art therapy can reduce the pressure of clones on a large scale at the same time, as long as the clones are in the music and art frame, and it does not consume Noah's electricity. However, this massage bed can only massage one clone at a time and needs to be connected to Noah's circuit. Since there is already a massage bed, let's give it a try. The working clones will not go directly to the massage bed to start a massage, but Jiang Sheng can guide a clone to the side of the massage bed, and the clone will lie on it. Irving was seen lying on the massage bed with his face down and his back up, and then he pressed a yellow button on the bed leg. 2 mechanical arms began to beat Irving's back up and down in a cycle. Irving's comfortable expression was as if he was enjoying a carefully arranged massage. But in fact, in Jiang Sheng's opinion, these 2 mechanical arms were very clumsy, and the movements were only the simplest beating, so it shouldn't be so comfortable. 10 minutes later, the pressure value on Irving's body really decreased by 1%. Jiang Sheng walked to the button on the bed leg at the right time and pressed the red button, and the massage bed stopped. Irving, who was lying on the massage bed, looked at Jiang Sheng with a puzzled look, as if questioning why Jiang Sheng didn't let him continue to enjoy the service of the massage bed. Jiang Sheng directly assigned him a task and transferred him away. Seeing that Irving had left, Jiang Sheng lay on the massage bed himself and pressed the yellow button. As the mechanical arms beat, Jiang Sheng's face also showed an expression of enjoyment. It feels good. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.